Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Chatting with Nuts. This is episode number 86, and I am your host, Jim Orange, featuring a wonderful guest tonight that's never been on the show, but a guy that I'm a big fan of. He likes to chat books. He likes to lift weights. He even rides motorcycles, which I don't do because why would you ride two wheels when you can ride four? Makes absolutely no sense, but we won't judge him for that. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Tom Orange. He's on this side of me. Tom, how the hell are you, friend?
I'm doing really well. Happy to be here. Excited to chat with you tonight.
Absolutely. I've been trying to get you on the show for a little bit. You kind of snubbed me. I thought that was rude, but I figured that I'd still bring you on. And I actually,
Appreciate it.
All week long, dude, I had to order, this is Balenciaga. I had to order the orange shirt, but I also just started snorting Miracle Grow to try to get my mustache to grow because I did grow a mustache. Actually, you said you had seen it. I grew a mustache really early on in the channel. If people don't remember this, but I had pledged to grow a Cosmere mustache. And I said, I will not shave my mustache till I finish the Cosmere. And then I read Will of Ascension. And I think I was like, never mind. I'm not going to read the rest of the Cosmere. This is
one of the rougher ones.
This is going to stop right here. I think it turned into more of a Stormlight mustache, but I thought Cosmere mustache just sounded better. Would you agree?
It does. That's a good ring. Yeah, I think it was around for about 3 videos because I went and looked, and I think it was about 3 videos.
Yes, and that was back.
Mustaches.
I was in a deep depression, struggling to post videos. So those 3 videos were probably over a span of 4 months, I think. So the mustache did not grow quickly. If I wanted to grow out a proper one, I obviously would have had to probably taken 9 months and taken Propecia on my face, which would have killed all, chances of me being productive. So instead, I went on Amazon, and in 2 hours, I got this delivered. It was about $460, and I'm positive I'm going to have trouble getting this thing off. I can't smile.
It's thick. It's there. It looks good.
Thank you. I think I look terrible, but it's all about the bit. You have to.
If you had a pipe, a nice long pipe, I think it would really fit in.
Bro, I even ordered an orange glass. Thomas, orange straw.
The straw. Man, you might have more orange stuff.
Well, you have a blue
within
cap.
reach than I do.
Absolutely. Folks, what do you think the chances are? Chat, lovely to see you here on this Friday night. What are the chances that this has chemicals that I'm inhaling? It smells horrible. It smells so bad. It smells like pneumonia almost. So I'm wondering if there's like formaldehyde in it or something, and I'm just going to die tonight after I get off the stream. Who knows?
So when we're 40 minutes in and you just pass out backwards, I'll just keep going. I'll keep everything smooth and just take over.
Yes, I think that you have the ability. Your shoulders are certainly wide enough. I had a lot of trouble thinking about bringing you on because I generally try to get guests who are less good looking than me and definitely less in shape. But unfortunately for me, I think that you are easily the most in shape person I think I've ever had on the show. You're absolutely yoked, my friend.
Thanks. In shape is a funny thing because if you asked me to run a mile, that would go very poorly. But lift a bunch of weight, I can do that for sure.
You either look good or feel good. You don't really get both. And sometimes we're show cars. We're not built for performance on the road. We're not having the grippy tires. We're more sitting in the showroom. People are coming up. Oh, look at that curve there. That's kind of where we're at. But you're in great shape. You're another dude, likes biceps and likes books. And I said, well, there's probably no one else on the platform I could get along better with than this guy.
It was almost my channel name, funny enough. It was almost Books and Biceps. It was almost Books and Biceps.
So
my girlfriend was a big champion for that name.
You should have done it because I actually thought of a series where I was going to do books for biceps and it was going to be big standalones. And then I was going to do trilogies for triceps, and I was going to do an entire tricep day at the gym.
These are great.
And I just remembered a bit that I forgot. I was going to bring a dumbbell up here, and I was actually going to work out while we talked the entire time. And because I need to catch up. Like, you're making me look bad, so I was going to work out. Like, I'm getting you to sit still while I'm working out like I'm catching up. But now that bit's dead because I forgot. Kelsey's not home. She can't bring it to me, so the bit's dead. Oh no, this is going terribly. Tom, dude, it's good to see you though. How does it feel? Did you call the fam? Did you say, hey, I made it?
Well, my girlfriend's been referring to you as the nuts guy since you reached out, and so that's just been an absolute highlight to deal with. Every time she's like, "Is the nuts guy this week?" And it's been great. So I
I
figured
mean,
you'd enjoy that. That is how she's referred to you.
I feel as if when it comes to talking to people about this whole sphere, it's already weird, right? And then you're saying,
Oh,
yeah, I'm doing
absolutely.
a live video chat in front of lots of people on a stage with the nuts guy. And they immediately start wondering, wow, like is Tom into OnlyFans? Like, what is he doing in his free time? It's very,
Yeah,
very curious.
yeah. My
Are they
friends
watching?
do not get it. Anybody I know? Probably not. No,
Okay.
most people don't know actually that I do this at all. So.
Is that on purpose?
A little bit. I haven't ever. I mean, I think like some of my close friends and stuff know a general thing that I do, but like some of the people I know are like the last time they read a book was they were in high school, and that was like 40 years ago. So like the idea of like sitting down and talking about books and just everything just does not compute for a lot of them. So I don't talk about it too much just because they don't understand. They refer to it as that book thing normally.
So is that because, so I'm curious about that though. So you don't really have any readers in your life at all. It's really just
I
us.
I have so my girlfriend reads, and then I have a few friends who do, but for the most part, no, especially not in person. So like I have friends who are across the state or across the country, and so I don't see them regularly, but
Yeah.
they read. But in my like local area, absolutely not.
Interesting. Okay, so do you think
Yeah.
that's because of the type of hobbies that you have? Because you do have
Oh,
hobbies that
100%.
are a little, let's be honest, like they're a little bit odd for a book reader, right?
Yes,
I, th-
absolutely.
I mean, I'm not trying to judge you, but I did mention the fact that you're into bikes, not mountain bikes, maybe also, but you're into like
At one point.
motorcycles. At one point, okay. Did you
At
outgrow
one
the
point, yeah.
bicycle? Or are you just too large for it? Like your quads
Uh,
smash against the.
the amount of so that actually did become a little bit of a problem where the bike I had didn't really fit with me anymore. So that did happen. Same thing with kayaking. That was a problem. I used to do a lot of whitewater kayaking, and once the legs start to get a little too big to fit in, it's not comfortable to be in it for a couple hours. But the motorcycle it's just one of those things that normally attracts like 50 to 70-year-old white guys, and so that's who I end up hanging out with a decent amount of
So
time.
you're saying that they're not reading, because we did a whole thing
They
last
are
episode where
not.
we talked about young men not reading, but also the old men are not reading anymore.
No, absolutely no. There's no. Well, at least the people I'm with. I mean, they're definitely not. The idea of picking up a book to them that's not like a Harley magazine. I mean, why are you wasting your time? Could be watching an old Western or something.
So what are their excuses? Because every time you mention that you read around non-readers, they have a reason why they don't read. Oh, I just can't get into. I don't know what to pick. Like, what are the excuses you're hearing down there at the Hell's Angels, beach club or whatever the hell you're doing?
Yeah, so more of an outlaws guy, but if
Oh, really?
if there are motorcycle people in here, they understand. But a lot for a lot of them, they just think it's silly. Legitimately, they think it's kind of silly. I think they think it is childish or something they just had to do like in school, and so they completely stayed away from it.
So, also, Joanna, phenomenal pun. No reading for old men. I feel like if you
That's
hand them
great.
a Cormac McCarthy book, they would literally not be able to not like open it up and be like,
Yeah, he
Gnosticism.
would be one.
Yeah.
He might be one that some of them would be like they could get into, especially I don't know, all the pretty horses is probably a little bit too romantic
Too much
for them, but
Spanish in
like
there, brother.
that's for sure. They definitely could not handle that. And it's such a funny thing because I have these groups of friends who I only really fit in with them in like one aspect of a lot of the things we do.
Yeah.
So it is that weird thing because even a lot of the guys I know at the gym, it's the same kind of thing. They're not reading. Some of them might be nerdy in like video games, that kind of sense, but like
Yeah.
reading is just not. It's not on the table.
We're the real nerds, Tom. We're the real ones in there
I,
clanging iron and turning pages. You know what I'm saying?
Jimmy, I spent 90 minutes 2 days ago messing with fan curves for my PC. So like, it was a little too loud. I needed to make sure I could get the temps going. Just yeah.
Well, if
AIO pump
anyone
was
was
turned
getting
up too
hot and
high.
bothered by these mustaches, they are now completely cooled off. So thanks for keeping it PG for us here, talking about fans for your computer, dude.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Tremendous. You somehow made reading seem cool. That's impressive.
I like to do it. I like to keep it, it needs to, I feel like if I make it seem like it's more exciting than it is, I can
Yeah.
maybe trick some people into it.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
that'd be, that's the plan.
So do you get a little pissed off when these old fellers are just sitting around cracking jokes about, Lord of the Rings or whatever it might be? Like, do they know you're into fantasy specifically?
No, I don't even think we've even had like that conversation. I think they literally just hear about books. And they've asked me maybe once or twice, like what kind of books I read. And, I'm like, yeah, fantasy and stuff. And they're just like, okay. And that's pretty much as deep. Do I get angry at them? No, I think it's funny. But
Yeah, you're not a very angry guy.
no,
Yeah.
no, not anymore. That left a while ago.
So
Oh,
you
yeah.
a little bit before.
Oh, absolutely. When I was younger, definitely some major anger issues like holes in walls. I
Really?
can't tell you how many. Oh yeah, I can't tell you how many computer mice I have hammer fisted into tiny little pieces. That's all probably 18 and younger. So like once I grew up a little bit, yeah, exactly. But it was there. And sports definitely was a piece of that. Like I played football from the time I think my first tackle football season, I was 6 years old because Florida has like no rules and you can just kind of do whatever. And not only that, normally you think of football as a fall sport. In Florida, I mean, it's always good football weather. So you just play all year long. So I had 4 seasons in a year because you would do spring,
trauma.
summer. Oh, the CTE's coming hard. It's around the corner. I've accepted it. It'll be there.
That's really what this channel is. This channel is it's a documentation of a madman losing his mind to brain damage from steel chair shots and contact sports all up and down my history. I think that's actually what this channel will eventually serve as is an example whenever I eventually like do something horrible on stream. So not angry anymore.
No.
Doesn't bubble up, doesn't come back, huh?
No, sometimes I try. I even try to get to that like dark place when I'm lifting, specifically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like very controlled, but you have to so I mostly do strongman. And so it's a mixture of being athletic, explosive, but also obviously just strong. And so sometimes to try to get to that like dark place that just gives you that little extra can mean the difference in a competition. And so sometimes I try to get there. I don't normally do a good job at it. It's just not the people I train with aren't like that. And so it's maybe if I was in an environment that was a little bit more everybody's angry and stuff, I would get there, but not so much anymore.
Yeah. I feel that a little bit because like that was when I switched to jiu-jitsu gyms, that was kind of what was happening. A lot of people were in competition intensity and I'm over there trying to evangelize about books. I'm like, hey, you got to read Rage of Dragons, bro. And, and then they're rolling and they're trying to murder me. I'm like, dude, what just happened? We were just talking about a revenge tale about a man trying to go, avenge his father, Tao. And then you're over here trying to strangle, I realized I was like, I think I'm here for this more than I am for the, I can't get to that dark place as much anymore. It's still there.
Yeah.
No,
it's always there a little bit, but yeah. And it's probably a little bit different with jiu-jitsu because obviously what I'm doing is just very much more non-contact. It's a competition, but it's in a different way. There's not that physical aspect to it the same way. But there is a few people who I have been like, hey, you should read. And then I sit there and I'm in the gym for 6 hours because I'm giving them a top 10 list of what they should read. And he's like sitting there taking down notes. And then it's funny. I spent all this time talking to this one guy and I'm telling him you should, I was really trying to sell him on Project Hail Mary. I was like, this is an easy win. Like it's perfect entry point and everything. And he comes in like 2 days later. And he's like, hey, remember that book you told me about? One of my other friends also said it was really good. So I think I might actually read it now. I'm like, I guess I'm not good enough.
I hate when this happens with me all the time. I mean, I'm telling people, I'm like, dude, Demon Copperhead is the jam. And everyone's like, yeah, okay. Grandma book, whatever. And then more people start reading and they're like, man, this Barbara Kingsolver, she's got a pen. She can write a little bit. And I'm like,
yeah,
it was in the top 12 books last year, folks. It was in the top 12. Yeah. They didn't watch. Yeah. I'm very offended. Very, very offended. I'm just waiting for the day that Dagger and Coin gets adapted. and then I can be like, I told you all so.
Oh,
You
okay.
know.
I have not. Not that one's.
Oh, I know.
That one's
I
not
looked.
from.
I looked.
Yeah.
All I've done my research.
Oh,
You
okay.
have not read it, and you don't have any interest in Long Price Quartet by Daniel Abraham, which is interesting because
I
you
do
do like
not.
Daniel Abraham.
I like him mixed with Ty Frank. So
Interesting. So you would say, do
Yeah.
you think Ty is the A side of that equation?
I actually don't know. It's just whenever I hear somebody talk about that book series, I'm like, I don't know. I don't think so. And I'm not afraid. I'm definitely not afraid to like see something that's really popular and just be like, it's not for me. Like the spear cuts through water. There's no way I'd like that book. Just 0% chance. No way.
Evie is in the
I
chat,
know.
and
I know. I feel bad. I can feel the dagger coming. I can feel the spear coming.
we were having
But
such a good time, Tom,
I know. I know.
and just the vibes. It's dissipated. The energy's
Yeah.
very low now.
Crashed. Yeah. And
Hating
we have to
on
talk
it.
about something. Yeah.
No, I still got bones to pick with you though. You don't want to read Paranesi.
No.
You just made
No.
a video. You're like, I'm not reading these books. They suck. I haven't read them, but they
Yeah.
suck. And I'm like, Tom, this is nonsense.
I'm sure I could be tricked into it at some point. I can be very easily influenced. That's one of my things I've learned while doing this. I can be like, I have no interest in in reading something. Like Malazan was one of those for the longest time. I was like, there's no way.
And
I'm
now
ever
look
gonna
at
read
you.
that. I think it's pretty good.
Listen.
I'm not at the same. I'm not. If Malazan's a church, I'm in like the last pew next to the entrance.
You're just there
But
for the
I'm at least
spaghetti
in
dinner.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
the garlic bread's gonna be good, so I'm at least in there.
Yeah, church grandmas can whip it. There's no doubt about it. They can whip it in the kitchen, dude. But,
Yeah, they
dude,
can.
I don't know. You go into a gym and you look at somebody doing a 400-pound squat your first day. You go, I don't know, man. I don't think I saw you talk about Book of the New Sun. You're like, I need a PhD in this. Tom, from one meathead to the other, brother. Brother, you can do it. You can read these things. I think, obviously, one, coming to them at the right time is really important. But, like,
Yeah.
give it a shot. Why not? Come on.
Well, the biggest why not is because I don't DNF anything, so I would just force
Well,
myself.
that's silly, Tom.
It is. Oh, it's absolutely huge red flag. One of my biggest flaws. Can't do it though. I've never done it. I've
Well,
never DNF.
Paul's giving you credit.
Never.
Paul says, respect for knowing what you don't like, though. I've had First Law recommended to me for years, but I've never picked it up because it sounds boring.
Uh-oh.
It
That might
depends
be
on
worse
what
than
you
what I
find.
said.
Hey, listen, I'm a big fan of boring books, but people find some things boring. You know what I find boring? Tons of action back to back to back to back to back. And
It can really dull the brain.
a little bit. Sometimes I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm ready for the next conversation. I'm a big dialogue guy. I like when people
Okay.
come together. Memories of Ice is like this. Memories of Ice has some very memorable sieges of Capustan, has some very interesting things with maybe and motherhood, but also that book, in my opinion, is at its most epic in this Malazan epic fantasy book series that everyone talks about for all these epic moments, is whenever we see two people that I never thought would talk to one another. And they're sitting down at a table and they've come to appreciate each other. They meet at
Yes.
a meeting place and they talk, and then you see Amanda Rake and a Whiskey Jack have this conversation, and it's just,
Yes.
to me, gripping.
No,
I mean,
I'm with you. That was some of the more enjoyable part. Like the action in that book is great and the sieges and everything, but I'm kind of in the same boat where that's not really what draws me to a lot of stuff. The lead up to a lot of the action stuff I find to be much more interesting than like an actual big battle in of itself.
yeah.
Not that action can't be like compelling and everything. Like John Gwynn does a great job of it, and he's in my brain because I'm going to be reading Fury of the Gods soon. But like he does a
Yeah.
great job at it. But I don't need it to just be crazy action for the whole time. It doesn't. I need more than that actually at this point.
Yeah, yeah, and we evolve and we go through different moods, and sometimes I just want a good old fashioned romp. I started Dungeon Crawler Carl on audio, and I was having a really good time with it, but I kind of got out of that mood, and I put it on the shelf for now. I'll finish it, no doubt. I'll probably listen to the whole series at some point, but it's just something I'm not in the mood for all the time. So
Yep.
every now
Yeah, I
and
kind
then,
of took a big break from like big epic fantasy for a while, especially after finishing Memories of Ice. It was just kind of like,
yeah.
okay, I did that, and then I came back to it finally with the Forgetting Moon, but I did take a break there for a little while because it was. I mean, Malazan's a lot in general,
It
and
is.
then so I just needed a bunch of random stuff after it.
Yeah, and just take your time with it. And, I think having a little bit of diversity in that pile is always a good thing, to go and reach for things. And I know you got some stuff coming up that we're going to talk about that I'm really excited that you're reading, specifically one book. But Jared Henderson, by the way, folks, just phenomenal channel over there for Jared. Appreciate him coming over here, chatting with us. Always appreciate him. Said, Tom, I will give you $25 if you read Paranesi. Let's see how easily influenced you are. Can you be bought, Tom?
Oh, I can be bought. I don't know if I can be bought for $25, but I can definitely be bought.
How much are we talking? I'm going to abuse that
That's a good
zoom
question.
in just so we're all aware.
That's fair. I think once you start getting to the triple digits, I probably fall over pretty quick,
You know what? I see a little twinkle in your eye, Tom, and I think that you're actually telling the truth. I think that there is a chance that you could be bought. And I think the only thing that you're waiting on, dude, the only thing you're waiting on,
the highest bidder,
No, it's a Manscaped ad. You're the definite, like, how are you not sponsored by Manscaped? You are Manscaped.
That's a great question,
I'm just
Chatting with Nuts brought to you by Manscaped.
Yeah, they won't sponsor. I only had one sponsor ever in the history of this show, and it was Whatnot. And they didn't like me, I don't think. I didn't move the merchandise, apparently.
I mean, Broken Binding's like missing out. This could be a Chatting with Broken Binding series. Just
they're missing out.
Special edition. Yeah, they absolutely are.
Yeah, they want Patrick. They want Library of a Viking. They want they don't want this.
They don't realize that this is the premium live stream on the internet.
It's the only live stream on the internet, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, it's just me and Pat McAfee. That's it. There ain't nobody else in this space. I can't see them. They're way down here.
Two Titans.
Two Titans, dude. Yeah, you're an interesting guy, though, because like I saw your video where you're talking about these books you're not going to read for no real reason other than the fact you're kind of like, this kind of sounds like it sucks. I don't want to read it. I'm being inflammatory.
No, that's exactly
you're
what I said.
very well spoken. I'm just trying to, get a little rise out of you. But, you had some reasons why you didn't read it. But it was interesting as I watched more videos from you and I watched you like progress. I feel like coming back to some of those books eventually, you might get something out of them that you didn't think you would get.
That's definitely true. And actually, that's a question I had, kind of leads into a question I had for you tonight is, as you have read more and more,
okay,
what do you think it would take for a book to become your new favorite book?
Ooh.
Because obviously, right? Because for me, at this point, I've had the same favorite book really since I got back into reading in 2019. That's a long time to still have the same favorite book, even though my tastes have changed so much. So is there, I actually don't know what your favorite book is off the top of my head, but what would it take to like supplant that as the number one? And is it even possible? Is it at the point where it's like you need to kind of retire it, put it in the Hall of Fame and start fresh? Or is there something that something could do? And like, what would it take? What would it look like to be your favorite at this point?
Tom, I'm glad you asked. As Jim Orange, I'm going to answer Tom Orange's question here. Dude, that is something I ask myself a lot of times. I'm saying like, what, not just favorite book, but like what cracks into that top 5 at this point? I've read so many things that have so many meaningful, impacts on me. And A Storm of Swords is my favorite book of all time. It's actually one of the reasons why I've never done a top 10 list, because I feel like to me, they're so obvious. Like I know there's thousands of people that watch, so like they're not aware all the time. Like you, right? Like you've watched my channel, you didn't know. So I should probably just do it anyways.
I probably could have guessed, but
right. Yeah, you could probably take. I think it's probably more interesting to see what makes the top 5. I think that would probably be more interesting for people. It's kind of like Daniel Green. Like everyone knew Wheel of Time was 1, so he put it at 0 and then did a fresh 1 to 5, which I actually always thought it was kind of a cool idea. So for me, I don't know if I have an answer to that. It's something that I do think about quite often. I don't know if it's I want to say nothing's impossible in the realm of being impressed on by art, right? Like I think art, when it takes you by surprise, so that's probably the first thing, right? Is being surprised by something and something catching me off guard, most likely. But there's a lot of nostalgia there. I literally was driving to the gym today and I was thinking about the first time that I actually read Storm of Swords. And I said out loud to myself in the car today, I said, God damn it, that was fun. Like that was the best.
It's a great book.
Like reading it a chapter a day. That's what I did. the first time
Oh,
through.
okay.
I read them chapter a day. At least I
Wow.
think after book 2, I started doing that because I got really, really busy. But man, it's why I'm here, dude. It's why we're
Right.
talking right now. It's why
Yeah.
I have this and why I keep doing this is because, there's always a chance I'm going to be able to talk about like some of my favorite books, which is really cool. But some general things that I feel as if are non-negotiables are emotion. So genuinely like bringing something out of me, not feeling contrived, but in the moment actually getting emotional. I think that giving me possibly a new perspective on life, or maybe even just an appreciation for life in general, would be something that would go a long way. But it would also just have to be something that unequivocally, that I don't care what other people think about it. Like that's another thing. Like I'm always thinking about how people will feel about this because I talk to a lot of different people and people come to me and they look for maybe recommendations or something. So I try to think outside of my own opinions on a lot of
Hmm.
things that I read. There are a few select books when I read it and I said, I really don't care. Like this is so personal to me or this is so impactful to me that it is all about what I felt in this moment. Cloud
Hmm.
Atlas is that book. Cloud Atlas is a book. And I've seen you title a couple of videos like this. I love it. You probably won't. Like that's just for the general
Yep.
masses. I don't think that they're going to love books like Cloud Atlas. But for me, that's a top of the line book. And when I was reading it, I think Cloud Atlas is the closest I've come
Okay.
possibly to that.
Okay.
The Bone Hunters and Malazan, I think The Great Ordeal. Anything that's one book of the year here on the channel, like The Scar by China Miéville, these are books that have always kind of entered that conversation, but you always have to let like that recency bias kind of settle on a book and really think
Oh, yeah.
about it, And that will, over time, things will bubble up or they'll bubble down and
Hmm.
everything kind of sifts into order at some point. Depending on your mood, of
Yep.
course, things can change a little bit.
Sure.
But do you feel like you could find a new favorite of all time?
I think it would be really hard at this point. And so, like, I have a spreadsheet. I have one for every year since 2019 when I kind of got back into reading. And then I have an overall one. And so each year I rank every book I read from my favorite to my least favorite. And then I have that master spreadsheet where I compare everything against everything. And that top couple, I mean, it hasn't changed in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I keep the yearly ones. I don't go back in time and change them. So like I want to go back to 2019 and change it because I like to have that snapshot of like how was I feeling at the end of that year because I'll move it around at the end. But once 2019 was over, like I stopped. And the overall one, I'll move stuff. I'll like randomly scroll through it and be like, actually, I think I like this more than that. And so I kind of have that like living document where I do that actively. But
Hmm.
I don't know. I feel like my favorite book is Death's End, which is the last book in the Three Body Problem. And I feel like that, and
Banger.
it might be more of a series. Yeah, it might be more of a series thing in general, but like that series and that book like changed the way I like think about the universe and just like,
Hmm.
I don't know. I think about specific moments from that series, maybe not on a daily basis, but once a week for sure. Like I'm
Yeah.
thinking about things that happened in it. So it would be
And
hard.
and for you, I mean that's an interesting book because there are I think some pretty realistic criticisms of that trilogy in general, just about
Oh,
some of the characters
absolutely.
being a little bit more it's not going to be
Yeah.
something where like character driven readers are going to grab a hold of that and be like, I just couldn't believe what the character said. That's not happening.
Yeah.
They're
No.
stand-ins for ideas a lot of the times, and
Yeah.
also there's a lot of there's a lot to be said about the way that we look at characters in stories from like a more Western perspective to an Eastern perspective. That's what I said about Dandelion Dynasty. I thought was very interesting is that like Dara, the world is actually a character in itself, and the
Okay.
generations that we see pass through are a character as well, and it all matters just as much as the individual. So I think that there's a little bit of a difference maybe between that, but is it hard for you to pick that as your favorite book of all time, knowing that there's so many criticisms
Nope.
out there of the series? Nope.
No.
I like it. A man
Yeah.
who knows
I
what he
hear
likes.
all the criticisms and I'm like, yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with a lot of them. Like, there's no way I can look at it and be like, no, this character writing is on the same level as like a Janny Wirtz or even
Mhm.
like a George or somebody like that. But that doesn't matter to me. The
But
rest of
something that
that
makes you
series,
look at the
everything.
universe in a different way.
Yeah, yeah, and maybe if I had been exposed to some of those ideas beforehand, that wouldn't have been as impactful at the time. But that's not what happened, and that's why I don't reread stuff normally, because especially something like that, it's like I have such a staple memory of it that I
Oh
don't
yeah.
know if I want to go in and redo that memory.
Yeah, there have been series that I'm a little bit afraid to jar that
Oh yeah.
very rose tinted memory, and for a very specific time and place. Now that I've read hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fantasy books, which
Yep.
is nothing in the grand scheme of life, right? I know plenty of people
No.
who've read thousands, and way
Yep.
more than me, and they still reread. So maybe I shouldn't be as against it as I am. So you're not a big rereader, and you don't DNF.
Correct. I
Would you
feel
say you're
yeah. So
stubborn?
maybe a little bit. Maybe set in my ways is how I'll phrase it. But the only book I do reread actually every year at Christmas, I do reread A Christmas Carol. That's like the one exception.
That's
I
so
read that.
wholesome.
Tiny Tim. I need to just make sure he's okay, just in case.
I hope someone writes some fanfic and it just all goes wrong for him one day when you're like, what copy did I read? Who's this Jim
Yeah.
Nuts that wrote this? This is insane. Yeah, I kind of get that. I reread The Hobbit a lot of the times around Christmas
Okay.
time. I think Dragonbone Chair is a book that I'd like to reread around Christmas time. I don't even have to do the whole Memory Song Thorn, just Dragonbone Chair at Christmas.
Just okay.
For me, is a Christmas book for whatever reason it might be. I think we all have those kind of seasonal reads.
Yep.
Someone did offer us up a spin-off name, The Bee's Knees. It says Himbos and Hardbacks, the spin-off. I think that this is such a good... Tom, we might have to start a podcast.
We might. Yeah. I mean, with a name like that,
with
that's
mustaches like these,
impressive. The world's our oyster.
the world is our oyster. Absolutely. Dominic had a question for both of us. I said, what is a book you have read at first you felt was just okay or even pretty good, but weeks after finishing, you grew to love it?
Grew to love it. I think I mentioned it earlier today, but I think Project Hail Mary is one that I really liked it when I was done with it. And that's one of those books where I just go back to it all the time. I'm like, that was just such a good time. Like I just really had just like an awesome time with it. And so I think it's probably bumped up since I read it initially. I think Dune was probably another one that like I really liked it at the time, but especially after seeing the movies and thinking then back to the book, I think it's probably moved up some as well. Those are the first two that come to my mind.
Yeah, this is interesting because I think I usually go the opposite way. I usually sit on something for a little bit and I think about it more and more critically. And,
Yes.
part of that might be also taking in opinions, which I do try to limit myself on since I'm trying to formulate opinions and speak them out. I try to keep them to myself a lot of the times or be in like my own head for a little bit. I think a book that grew on me after Suttree. I think that by Cormac McCarthy.
Okay.
When I first read that, I honestly was like so confused. I think Suttree is a harder read than Blood Meridian. And
Okay.
I didn't know. I was somewhere between like a 2 and a 4 star. Like I was like, I just don't really know how I feel about this. But the longer I sat with it and the more I think about it, I actually think it's McCarthy's best book because it's semi-autobiographical. And I think that some of the stuff that he puts in there is very real and a bit different than a lot of his other book. His books are very, I don't want to say samey because he changes styles and stuff and approaches to what type of story he's telling. But like he has his themes and he sticks to those themes over and because I think he's a person that was writing to try to figure out something for himself. I think in many ways, but Suttree felt different in many regards to me. So I think that Suttree would probably be that. I know that there's others, by the way. Like I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about it. Book 2 of Long Price Quartet definitely is on that list as well. I think when I finished it, I said it was just okay, but the more I thought about it, especially when you finish that series and everything gets better once you finish it, I was really impressed with Book 2. I thought it was really excellent. What about books that have gone the other way, Tom? Are there books that you've read that you've soured on over time or at least come down off a high horse for?
So if we're talking about like my top list, the one that comes to my mind the most is The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. I don't know if you've read that, but that book is like harrowing. But
I haven't.
the end of that book is basically just like political propaganda for like the party he wanted, which, whatever your political party stuff, that's fine. So that the more I think about it, it comes down a little bit, but the rest of that book is just like heartbreaking, but in I don't really say in a good way, but it is one that has come down, but I still really, really like that book.
Okay, okay, I like
Yeah.
that. I think for me it'd be Burning God by the Poppy Weather trilogy. When I finished
Okay.
it, I felt accomplished. I had finished it. I was happy. I almost DNF'd it in book one because I hated the first half of book one a lot. Thought book two was way better, but like still kind of like what are we gonna do with it? And in book three, and I was so like conflicted about it, but I was like, man, I finished it. I thought that at least there were some bold decisions made towards the end of it. But the more I sat on it, the more I was like, man, I think I might just not like these books very much. And that was definitely around a time where I felt my taste kind of like changing and morphing. And I think maybe it was a victim as that as well. But I think that that's the prime example for me of something that I soured on a little bit over time. Now there are series that I probably wouldn't like as much today if I had read them now, but I don't really count those because I can't. I read them when I did. So
Exactly.
what's the point? I battle with that a lot because I get a lot of comments on some of my older reviews, and they're like, how could you like this and then also like this? And I'm like, well, that's because I hadn't read as much back then, or because it was a different time in my life. Like I don't know, people don't pay attention to dates on things, but
No.
yeah. I've had book one reviews where people are like, you said book two hasn't been out yet. It's already out, dummy. And I'm like, this is 4 years ago, bro.
Yeah. What do you mean?
I don't know what to tell you. You have time traveled back in time to watch this video. Ross wanted to know if I've ever watched Cloud Atlas, the movie. I have not yet, but I do own it. I actually bought it, and I will definitely at some point check it out. Let's see. Kindles and Kick says, what books would you have DNF'd if you did DNF, Tom? You stubborn old man, you.
Yeah, the first ones that come to mind are, what is it, Blind Sight by Peter Watts?
Whoa. Why? I'd love to know why.
So I think that book was going after like an idea that I just don't care about. Like the idea of like consciousness and like, can we understand this other being's consciousness, and just all of that did not care at all.
Okay.
I mean, it's not one of those things where I think the book is necessarily bad, but I didn't enjoy it because of that. It was going after an idea. And I have this problem with a lot of sci-fi in general, where if the idea that the author is exploring is one that I personally don't care about, I'm going to struggle with that book for sure. That is something that I've noticed this year. I tried to read a little bit more sci-fi this year.
Yeah.
And in experimenting with that, I have found that if it's an idea that I don't really care about, it doesn't matter how well executed everything else in the book is. It's not going to work for me.
I mean, that's fair because it is a lot of people, especially a little bit older sci-fi, I always hear it's the ideas genre. There's so many ideas.
Yes.
And then that it's ripe with ideas. And if that idea stinks, and in your opinion, right, then yeah, it's kind of hard to get attached to it. So I am very interested in consciousness and how we lie to ourselves and how reality, typical dude bro stoner philosophy BS, right? It's not that deep, bro. I think Peter Watts was going for something that was fairly ambitious when he went out and wrote Blind Sight.
I think that's fair.
And I do think that there's some pretty evocative stuff in there, even outside that I found kind of, I mean, space vampires are pretty cool.
That was something I was interested in, and I just felt like, I don't know, maybe I just got so fatigued from the book in general that
it's a lot.
Just stopped caring at one point, and didn't even try to be as critical as I normally would be, because I just accepted the fact that I don't really care about what's going on, and I kind of checked out.
Yeah.
That's definitely happened. So another good answer for that question would be, what is it, Roadside Picnic?
Oh.
I think, yeah, that book, same problem. Just ended up not caring at all about what was going on. Just kind of read it, finished it to finish it. Stopped even really like thinking about it too much. Like it was happening, I was listening to it. It was on audio, so I was listening to it. I was getting what was like. I was paying attention, but I didn't care anymore.
Hey, fair enough. Jared said you're throwing dynamite casually and act like a no big deal. When you're that big, you ain't got to worry. What are they going to do? Step up to you? What are they? Yeah, right. Yes, space vampires, Ryan. There are space vampires. Ryan, I know you personally. You would despise this book. You should not read this book. It is not what you think. Andre says he almost DNF Disgrace. I mean, I love Disgrace. I think it's one of the best books I've ever read in my entire life, and I almost DNF'd because it was so hard to read because it's one of the most disgraceful POVs I've ever had to sit in. But I ended up getting a decent amount out of that. So Putrid Sunrise, which is honestly a pretty metal name, to be honest, wants to know what kind of ideas are you into so that the good folks at home can recommend you some sci-fi, Tom.
So I normally, and this is actually why I read Blindsight initially, was I very much am interested in to First Contact. That the whole idea of like how would we interact with another intelligent species that not only is intelligent but is on a level that is above our own. I find that to be that's probably my number one. Like First Contact, easy. That's why I think I was a lot more positive on Mercy of the Gods by James S. A. Corey than a lot of other people, because I think what people really wanted was the Expanse, but just the Expanse again, and that's not what that book is at all. But what they're going after, I was like riveted. I was like, I need to know what is going on with this alien species and how that interaction would go and everything.
Yeah,
I think it's one of humans' very naive ideas that we would be able to figure out like another animals or another creature on that kind of scales, like structure, how they would interact, how their hierarchies would be, all that kind of stuff. So that's one that definitely pulls me in for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love First Contact. I actually think that's probably my go-to for sci-fi. Though sci-fi, just like fantasy, such a broad genre that like that's hard to say. Because another sci-fi concept that I'm learning that I just love, and actually I love it so much that I'm willing to put up with bad versions of it, and most of them are bad, is like the captured in a weird place and why are we here? Lost, or From. I talked about From on the last episode, Chatting with Nuts, and it's still not a very good show that I really love. It's just that concept, that's sci-fi though for a lot of people. Sci-fi is one of those things I've noticed in a lot of literary fiction gets just kind of sprinkled in. And I'm like, this is a sci-fi book. Like this is very much a sci-fi
just a little
book.
bit.
Yeah. And
some random technology comes out of nowhere and you're just like, you just changed the marketing on this book. It fits in with a lot of other sci-fi stuff.
Yeah, you should be over here with us. Come over here.
Yeah.
To the Books and Biceps crew, what was it, hardbacks and himbos? Yeah, come over here and hang out with us for a little bit. I have to agree that Vampires Allergic to Right Angles is such an incredible concept. I can't believe you didn't love that. I thought that was cool. K Fox wants to know if she would like the space vampire book Blind Sight by Peter Watts. Yes, but please know that it's not just predominantly vampires. There's a whole lot else going on there. Like I'm not being disingenuous. I'm not, but I kind of am at the same time.
There's a space vampire.
He is there, and he does. There's a reason. It's kind of explained. Kind of. Have you ever heard of this theory that vampires are real and that they actually hibernate until human population gets too populated, and then basically an existential event happens and they come back and they feed on everyone, then they go back, they feed, and then they're good and they go back to hibernation, and that's like the mass extinction events and the idea of like past histories with technology that we can't find or prove?
No, but I'm going to add that to my repertoire of conspiracy theories I use to mess with people, for sure. I'm definitely going to be a firm believer in that one from here on out.
It's a fun thought experiment, I think.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's probably the most dude bro podcast moment that I've had on Chatting with Nuts. Hey bro, have you heard about this theory about vampires? That wasn't my finest moment. Lucas read Disgrace and said, my favorite book I read last year, not an easy recommend though. I don't recommend it to anyone. In fact, even though I really loved it. Evie, now you have to remember, Evie likes Spear Cut Through Water, so you guys do not agree on anything.
Oil and water.
That's right. She said, Matt, I recommend The Story of Your Life by Ted Chiang, which is my favorite of his two collections, and I think that he is one of the best writers in sci-fi. But now, to be fair, I'm not as well read in sci-fi, so take that with a grain of salt. But out of what I've read, I think that he is pretty phenomenal. But he's an ideas guy through and through. Short stories, ideas, in and out. We're good.
That doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah.
I will say, to go on your vampire conspiracy real quick, I actually read I guess it was comics that they bound together, where the idea is that I think it's actually getting made into a movie or TV show or something too. It's called 8 billion genies, and whenever the human population gets to 8 billion, everyone gets a genie, so everybody gets a wish, and you can imagine how chaotic that would be. It was a good time. The art in it is amazing. Some of the
Interesting.
best art I've seen in a comic book.
I might actually check that out. That sounds pretty awesome. And I'm always
Yeah.
down for some good art. I mean, you know about some weird stuff. I clicked on your weird books I've read video, and I pride myself on reading some pretty deranged and weird stuff. But you, I mean, what was the Liu wrote it? It was dinosaur was on the cover.
Oh yeah, the Cretaceous past.
What is that about, dude?
Ah, so that is one of the books that I read this year that made me think that if I went back and reread the Three Body Problem, I would still love it because obviously it's by him. But yeah, that the whole idea is that dinosaur, like you take the premise that dinosaurs at one point were intelligent and built a society alongside ants, and you start from the beginning of them basically just being ants and dinosaurs, and how that progressed into them literally like building rocket ships and going to outer space.
I love it.
Yeah, it's
I
great.
love
It does. It's not too long. It doesn't like it almost overstays its welcome. Where you're just kind of like, okay, I get what we're doing here. We can move along now. But I had such a fun time with that one, and it's one of those ones where it's just such a silly idea, but it's taken seriously, and I think that's what kind of makes the difference, right? It's not a jokey thing that he's examining here. He's examining like how society can absolutely destroy itself, but he's doing it with dinosaurs and ants, and like how there's this codependence on everything, and builds it up, but takes it seriously the whole time. It's not like a joke. It's not like, oh yeah, and the dinosaurs used ants as helicopters because they had wings and stuff. Like it's taken it more serious than that.
I like that, dude. That actually sounds very
Yeah.
interesting. I mean, dinosaurs are going to get a
Yeah.
lot of people through the admission gate. Like a lot of people are just wanting to read about dinosaurs. I hear it all the time. We need more
Absolutely.
dinosaurs. We need more dinosaurs. I agree. I agree totally.
Yeah.
What's your favorite dinosaur?
I mean, I'm basic, but T-Rex,
I knew it because
Yeah.
that's mine. I knew it. I do like the Allosaurus as well. I think the Allosaurus
Sure.
is pretty cool, but like, come on,
Yeah.
T-Rex,
T-Rex, yeah, yeah,
yeah. Those ham
Yeah.
hocks, dude. Those legs.
I saw one recently in the airport. The Pittsburgh airport has a
Yes,
has a
right
T-Rex
when you come
skeleton.
down the
Yeah,
escalator.
yeah.
Yeah,
And when you
sweet.
come down the escalator, yep, right near Franco.
Terrible airport. Terrible airport.
It's awful.
It's
an
awful.
awful airport.
It's not even in Pittsburgh. Yeah, don't get me started. Brent says that you might like some Peter F. Hamilton. Is this a sci-fi author that you've looked into?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's one of the ones that like at some point, yeah, I'll definitely read him.
Derry says that we're 3/4 of an hour in, and Jimmy is committed to the bit. You're damn right.
I don't think he has a choice.
You're damn right. We gotta.
I think
We-
it's
we-
stuck at this point.
Yeah, I don't think this is coming off anytime this year. That New Year's,
Yeah.
I'm gonna rip it off, and it's just gonna remove my top lip. It's gonna be heinous, and then I'm gonna sue whoever made this, probably Amazon themselves. Like it smells still. Like you get used to a smell. Nope,
No, just some nice chemicals.
reeking. It is reeking in here. So I don't know what this is about, but Fantasy Watch already calling saying I don't think Tom will like it. So whatever, something we've mentioned tonight,
Well.
saying, it ain't gonna work. It is not gonna work. So what other books should you have DNF that you didn't DNF? Is there like a long
Ooh.
list?
I can pull up my. Let me pull up my spreadsheet.
Dude, the
real
fact
quick.
that you're just rocking the spreadsheet while bench pressing 300 pounds is so odd. it's so not fitting for a man with those
let's-
shoulders.
Oh, I don't know how I didn't think of this one first, but Circe by Madeline Miller.
I didn't read that. I read Song of Achilles, and I did like Song of Achilles quite a bit.
Yeah, Circe was like if you wanted to learn about Greek history and myths and stuff, but instead they gave you the most watered down, boring version of it. It's like if you wanted a lemonade and they gave you a glass of water and spritzed like lemon scent in the air and told you that was your lemonade. Like that's how I feel about I don't have like a lot of like books where I'm like I hate it. That is one. That is one of them.
So that's so you won't read Piranesi. You don't like Circe. So do you hate women?
Well, we established that in was that with Joanna in Alan. I sleep next to a copy of Marcus Aurelius's
Oh,
stoicism.
meditation.
So
Yeah.
it's just sitting right next to my bed staring at me. So I think those thoughts just kind of come in unwillingly.
I'll let you redeem yourself. Who's your favorite female author?
Ooh, my favorite female author. So it's probably a race. So I have two answers because Janie Wirtz is probably up there.
Okay.
But the author who actually wrote my favorite fantasy book is, and it's actually like a YA, probably aimed at teenage girls.
Can I guess what it
It's
is?
called, yes.
All right, let me guess. Is it
Okay.
The God Killers?
No.
Okay, damn it. Thought I
No.
had it.
No, that was a good guess. I did like that book quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you about it later. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, it's called Fireborn, and it's by Rosaria Munda. Is it
Alan
Munda?
loved that
Munda?
book.
Yes, he did. Yes, he absolutely did. And that is one of my favorite books I've ever read. I mean, I love that book.
It's
I don't
that
know if it
good.
would hold it. That's one of those. It's one of those ones where I don't know if it would hold up as well now, but like, I adored that book. I adored the characters in it. I thought the political stuff that was going on was super fascinating. Just it was great.
Now, is this a series or a standalone?
There's 3 books. Yeah, it's the Aurelian cycle.
So
Yeah,
do you
they're all
like, do you
super
like
short.
all of them?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I like the whole series. Fireborn, the first one is definitely my favorite, but the next 2 are still like way up in my rankings.
All right. Okay.
And
I
it's
wouldn't
like-
believe
it's
Alan. I wasn't going to take
definitely-
his recommendation, but I will take yours.
Can't trust that guy, you know. But I love Alan.
It's not in you to be mean, Tom. Like, I can just see it. It's not in you. Even,
It's not.
even the
It's not.
jabs.
It's not a
You
real
can't
thing
do
I
it.
can do. I can't. As much as I think it would be funny, I can't. No, I do. That whole trilogy is great, and it's definitely like now probably it's probably incorrectly marketed as YA towards like a female reader, but I think it has so much more to offer than that. There are definitely like 1 or 2 scenes in there that I almost feel like it was a publisher's hand coming in and being like, I think you should add this in to hit this demographic bubble we're trying to hit.
Yeah.
But I definitely I adore those books. And there's even like a romance in it that's like kind of important to the entire story, and I love it. I love I love it. It's beautiful. It's great.
I love a
Highly
good
recommend.
romance.
Yeah.
Excellent, dude. All right, you know what? I think you did a pretty good job pitching that, and you turned it around. I was going to label you a misogynist and try to get you canceled, but now
Well,
we're here. You're saved. I think.
We'll see.
Simon
there's
Dinosaur.
plenty of time left.
There is. We got plenty of time to undo your reputation, bud. Simon Dinosaur. We do need more dinosaurs and also more book nerds with great mustaches. Well, there's actually only one of those here, and it isn't Tom. Okay, it's me.
I can't compete.
Yeah, there's, it's been a long time coming. There's a lot of testosterone behind these hairs. Simon, thank you for the 10 spots. Very, very generous of you. I very much appreciate it. So thank you. And also, I've always been a big fan of the name Simon Dinosaur because we do, in fact, love dinosaurs here at the Fantasy Network. So you are reading a lot of fantasy. You're reading a lot of sci-fi. But you're also going to be dabbling in something that I find to be very interesting, and that is, it's by Stuart Turton.
Yes.
The Last Murder at the End of the World.
Last Murder at the End of the World.
Yes, which is something that I read. Now, I need to know, did I influence you to read that?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Love it. So what about it made you want to read it?
I think, if I remember correctly, you kind of compared it to the setting of Attack on Titan because they're on an island by themselves and everything.
A little bit.
You even just said just a little. Like, I was already kind of bought into the, man, we're really going to worry about like murdering people in the apocalypse and everything. But then you just gave that little tidbit. So I'm a huge Attack on Titan fan, so I was like, well, that tipped it over the edge. So.
Nice. Yeah, I love like those contained settings of we're kind of in this space and we have to stay here, kind of thing.
I was gonna say they're back there somewhere.
I have mine downstairs. I don't. When we were talking about like loving a series but having like knowing criticisms, I love Attack on Titan, but I have so many complaints about it.
Yeah, I think we might agree that the twist is not my favorite part of that series.
Oh no, it all goes downhill from there.
Oh,
And
it all goes downhill
and the
from there.
folks that think that,
Absolutely.
you know,
Yeah.
it's very similar to other shows that there's always the you can tell the cracks are in the cement far in the foundation far before the ending whenever it kind of flops. Yeah, Attack on Titan is definitely one of those one of those
Oh,
mediums that I will talk about. I've read it I think 3 times. And it's definitely one of my favorite plots of all time, even with all of its problems. But I will sit there and crap on it for an hour and a half. No problems.
That first season, I've probably watched the first season. I don't know how many times. I watched it. I was not to be one of those I was there first people, but like
Oh, okay. Okay.
I was very early on the Attack on Titan train. Like when that anime came to the States, debuted the day it aired, I watched it. I watched that first episode and I was like, okay, how do I like get more of this? And so I was like ready and like, yeah, I can remember being in college and like volumes would come out at Barnes and Noble and I'd be like, all right, guys, I need somebody to like, I had a car at college, but I was like, I need somebody to drive me to Barnes and Noble so I can read this on the way back to school because I can't have it and not read it like immediately. So that was how like I adore that series.
Yeah.
Still, even with its problems.
I tried it way back in the day because I heard the premise, and that's just been a premise that's always sounded interesting to me, and I gave up on it because I wasn't into anime at all at the time. But it's truly one of the best plots. Still, even with all the faults, I think it's still one of the best plots. But it's also a very good example that a good idea can only get you so far.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, like, and sometimes the
Yeah.
ideas are better than what you can end up finishing with. But it's not just finishing with. There was other stuff there too. But the fact that kind of that kind of influenced you to read Turton's book makes me so happy because like I'm glad that you understood that it was only a little bit.
Yeah.
Brent here says I watched 12 episodes of Attack on Titan. It taught me that I do in fact dislike anime. Brent, I am of the opinion that I like the manga more, which is not a popular opinion at all. But I actually enjoyed reading it far more than
You know, it's funny. I actually didn't watch all of it. I turned into just a manga reader after,
Tom, you're so awesome.
I guess,
dude.
probably like halfway through season 2. I was like, I can just read this. That's fine.
Dude, you're awesome.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you.
appreciate
You're the
you.
only other person I know that just wanted to read the thing. Because like
Yeah,
soundtrack, animations, that's fine. That's fine.
there are some series where I really appreciate that. Like Demon Slayer. I don't know if you've experienced that one at all.
I have not.
That the manga is like I don't think it's all like that great at all. It starts off it's one of those ones that starts off super strong and then all of a sudden and then it got super popular because I think like Drake or somebody like loved it and so pushed it super hard. I know of all people Drake pushed it really hard until like people really got into it and then it's just not that good. But the anime makes it significantly better. Like the animation is beautiful. The animation's top notch, and then the soundtracks that they normally have make it just a 10 times better experience than reading it. That was one of the series that I kind of hate read at the end. I was like, I can't wait for this to be over. Normally I'm sad when a manga ends, and I'm like, I'm so glad this is the last chapter. I don't have to continue to read this every week now.
Yeah, it's interesting that like with that form of media that the adaptation a lot of times can enhance the story in many ways, whereas us as fantasy readers, when we see an adaptation, we're like, is it gonna be good? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm at the point where I don't even want them anymore.
I just don't really care
like,
that
especially
much.
Live action.
I'm not that invested. I know that sounds weird, but like, I don't know. I'm not that invested. I'm a reader first, so I've always just been like the books were good and that's enough for me. Now, that's not to say that I don't get into the shows or whatever, but like this is probably going to be like not a super popular take, but I find it odd that a lot of the discourse that you see in online spheres about books is like which book should be adapted, who should play what. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, we have these amazing books here and all this stuff. Like, I don't care who Henry Cavill is going to play. It's not that interesting to me.
I don't worry about any of that. Like when I see an adaptation is happening, most of the time I see that, oh, it's live action. I think that's, especially for fantasy, to me, live action fantasy is one of the worst ways you could adapt a lot of the stuff that happens because you lose the scale of a lot of it because it would be
Well,
so
sure.
expensive to do correctly. I think like Wheel of Time has that problem, right? Where like that adaptation, one, it happened during COVID, so that was kind of destroyed that
Tough
first
time.
season. Plus, like that at the peak of it, so I think that definitely hurt the first season. But then like just with how expensive it was going to be to get
Yeah.
that right, anyways, I think it puts every fantasy adaptation like on its back foot already. Like you're going into it kind of down.
I don't
Just
disagree.
yeah,
Yeah, at
especially
all.
with how it feels like Hollywood is today, where they're all about putting in as much money into a single project, and like you don't hear about the $15 million budget movie that grosses 40. It's
Yeah.
all about we put $300 million into Avengers Endgame and it needs to make $1.5 billion.
Well, yeah. And then you have Warner Brothers, who has no idea what to do with themselves, and they're cutting the budget of House of the Dragon and putting money into Joker
Oh,
2, and then Joker 2
they buried that movie
bomb
too. Like
bombing.
I didn't even know it came out. Somebody, one of my friends sent it to me, and it came out the opening weekend. They're like lowest opening weekend ever or something. I was like, I didn't
It's the
even know it was
biggest
out.
flop of a superhero movie of all time. And guess what? The budget was bigger than Doom 2.
Yeah,
Uh-huh. Warner Brothers
yeah,
is a nightmare. Yeah, it's very depressing.
yeah.
But to talk about a book, getting back to the last
Yes.
murder, the last murder at the end of the world. You're reading that this month, right?
I should get to it in November. Yeah,
Okay, I would love for
yeah,
you to keep me
yeah.
updated. I hope you like it. So you don't read a ton of mystery novels, right?
Not so much anymore. I've read some. Mystery's not like necessarily one that I've like reached for a lot, but I don't have anything against it. Like, I would consider a lot of the thrillers I read that end up kind of basically being mysteries that I've enjoyed in the past. Like all
Yeah.
the Dan Brown books are basically a mystery that is labeled as a thriller. And I know people love to hate those, but man, you can't tell me the Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons isn't just like great. That's such a good time.
I feel like that's a series that I'll never read just because I watched the movies and I got enough of it, and then I've just heard
Sure.
so much about them that I'm not at all intrigued by the book for some reason. I don't really know why that is, but
Yeah.
I guess you have thrillers, you have mysteries, and then there's like spy thrillers and stuff. And you have read so many James Bond books.
Yes. All the
Wh-
Ian Fleming's James Bond books.
Why?
They're good. I
For
had a great time with them.
So were you already a fan of James Bond when you went to the book? Like you'd seen some movies and you're like, oh, this is my
So,
dude.
I had seen some movies, but like I'm not like a huge James Bond movie fan. Like I definitely can remember going to Blockbuster and like renting some of the old movies and watching them as a kid and stuff. But like I don't even think I've seen the newest ones that Daniel Craig is in. So it was just kind of one of those random things where I was like, huh, this is like one of the biggest movie franchises of all time.
It is.
What are the books like? That was more of the draw to it. I wasn't like a massive fan going into it or anything.
Okay, so it wasn't even like a nostalgia thing. You just kind of went into it,
No.
and you end up
No.
having a great time with them.
Most of them, yeah. Yeah, most of them I like. You want to talk about books that like show their age and some of the problems that they have, like that is definitely like a huge problem in those books. But if you're somebody who can read that kind of stuff, compartmentalize it, be like, well, that's bad, that doesn't work.
Right.
You can still have a really good time with them. And sure, they may be a little bit cheesy, but like I always say, there's a big difference between the movies and especially the newer movies and the books. Like there's a pretty stark difference between the kind of story you're gonna get, especially
Yeah.
in the early James Bond.
Now, are they kind of episodic in nature, or do you start at some point?
For the
Like,
for the most part, there are a couple. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's definitely a couple where there's more of a through line with like specific villains and stuff. But especially the first handful or so, you'll get maybe like a reference back to a specific person or something like that, a location, something he did. But they're not like you don't have to read them one by one, though I probably would recommend it.
so you would start
if you're
with the publication order. You would just go publication.
Yeah,
order
I
if you
would.
recommend it?
Well, partially because Casino Royale, which is the first one, is one of the better Bond books just in general. So like starting there is like a logical good starting point. But then yeah, some stuff it's just like I don't know. It's almost Cosmere like a little bit where it's like early Cosmere where you get those like little references to like stuff that happened in the past. It's like
Are they eating metal?
I mean there is a guy who's obsessed with gold, so
I love gold. That's
He's
that's
all
an
about it.
that's an old reference for Austin Powers for folks who don't know.
Mm,
Bit of a James Bond satire in some ways, right?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
International Man
Yeah.
of Mystery, Austin Powers.
Yep.
Yes, old Michael
Absolutely.
Myers, not the murderer Michael Myers, but Michael Myers.
That is always the one I think of first.
Me too.
The
That's
murderer.
that's
Yeah,
probably
100%.
not good, Tom.
I watched those. I watched those movies way too young. Way
Same,
too young. Oh my God.
same.
My mom loved them. So like she was like, "It's Halloween. You're 6 years old. We're watching this movie together."
Dude, Tom, we're
Yep.
brothers, man. My first
Yeah.
movie I remember watching was Nightmare on Elm Street. It's the first movie,
Oh.
not Lion
So
King,
you
none of that.
you want to you know what's crazy about Nightmare on Elm Street? So like that obviously came out when my parents were like the perfect age.
Mm-hmm.
My mom's name is Nancy, and her best friend's name is Lisa.
Dude, don't go to
So
sleep
like that
tonight.
movie like freaked her out I could remember her telling me like freaked her out as a kid.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, you might
Yeah.
want to be careful going to sleep. I don't know if I would recommend it. I just rewatched it in a hotel room,
Oh, did you?
and it's not very good.
No, it's not.
I love it because my bar for like visual horror, like horror movies, are so low. I don't care how bad it is.
Oh,
I'll watch
I
it.
love a cheesy B horror movie.
Yeah,
Like the
I mean,
Leprechaun. Like
bro,
great.
bro.
Yeah.
Me and you we could be best friends, dude. I'm telling you, Leprechaun is the
Oh, yeah.
jam.
Yeah, it's so great. I love those.
Did you ever watch Leprechaun Goes to Vegas?
I'm sure I have.
Oh, it's so
But
bad.
oh, is it?
It's absolutely horrible. I recommend it though. I really do.
Oh, yeah.
Wow,
Yeah,
Leprechaun fan. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. And you like Attack on Titan. We're gonna get along absolutely great. So there is one question that was just beating around in my mind, bouncing around in this empty head of mine, and it's quite a simple one. And I don't think I've heard anyone ever ask you this, but maybe they have. Why orange?
So it's been my favorite color my whole life, but I think the reason it's my favorite color is it's wholesome. Is the orange popsicles was my grandpa's favorite kind of popsicle to eat. So he and
Okay.
I would eat orange popsicles together, and I think that is probably imprinted in my brain as like a happy memory. So I associated happiness and like a good time with the color orange. So
And
it's been
then
my
you were
favorite
like,
color.
yeah, that's me.
Yeah, that's me. And then, I thought it would be hilarious to be like a cartoon character and wear the same color shirt in all of my videos. So
It does build a theme, which I appreciate.
it does.
And it seems
Yeah.
like Laura did ask you the orange question. I
She
thought it was
she
pretty low.
did.
It was low hanging fruit. But I am sad that I'm not the original person to ask you that. That makes me very upset. I think that's a good reason. I think that's all you need because the Fantasy Network isn't much better. So I can't really I
I
can't
don't
diss
know.
you as much as I would like to. I was gonna just
Yeah.
roast you and then eat an orange as I did it. That was another bit. But
Okay.
produce is expensive, Tom.
Yeah.
We're gonna need a lot more super chats if I'm gonna buy a bag of oranges around here.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm kidding. Do not. No one super chat me for oranges. I'm kidding. That
Someone
felt gross.
DoorDash him some oranges real quick.
Please don't. If you know my address, please don't.
Oh, if you know his address, that's horrifying. Delete it.
Yeah, I will move
Actually.
immediately. Jimmy's the only one
Yeah.
with a live stream. In my mind, Brian, yes, I agree. And Shelf Unstable, my good friend Amanda says, because orange is awesome. I match you too. She does in her profile
yes,
picture. She also had a question for you, getting back to a little bit to the horror subject. Do you watch Terrifier? Have you seen these movies? I
Which
haven't
one is
either.
Terrifying?
It's the one where he looks like a clown type thing. It's a slasher, over the top gore
Clown
type thing.
type thing. No, I don't think I have seen that
Let's
one.
watch it and then we'll talk about it because I haven't seen them either. There's 3 of them. The third one just came out, so
Oh,
we should
okay.
watch them all.
Oh, I have heard of them then. Yes, it's like super low budget, but like is apparently going to make a bunch of money at the box
It's like a
office
cult
or something.
classic kind of
Yeah.
deal.
Okay. Yeah. I just heard somebody talking about it actually.
Yeah, man. A lot of people like orange in the chat, dude. Joanna says she used to have an orange room.
Oh,
Philip
nice.
remembers when they added orange to the color palette because he's so damn old. That's crazy, dude. And orange, you glad you asked.
Of course.
And Slay, my good friend Slay, would like to ask you: is your favorite dish orange chicken?
No, but it is up there. I do like it.
Benjamin said he recently enjoyed an orange for the first time. I guess they just got them in Australia last month.
I don't actually like oranges. That's a fun fact.
Well, now I'm mad. Now I'm just upset.
Yeah, just the color, not
I
the
feel
fruit.
I feel like you're a liar and a fraud and a cheat, and I don't like you anymore, Tom. We are no longer
I thought this
friends.
was a safe space I could open up, but quickly learning
It was going well, and you tanked
it
the
was.
episode. So now we're gonna have to run B-roll of old Allen episodes just to get the viewers back, which is super. I mean, you are underperforming. I'm gonna be honest. I hate to
That's
tell
fair.
you this, but I can't lie to you. I can't. I have too much respect for it. No, I'm kidding. Of course. What do you think? So you're reading, you're stretching your taste. Like I think I like the fact that you've read these Bond novels. Like you've done a lot of stuff. You're going to be reading some Romantasy coming up. You read a YA series that you seem to be very, very high on. One of only 2 female authors you've ever read. Only 2
Got to
ever.
keep the list small. Got to keep the
Yeah,
list
yeah.
small.
You don't want to. You don't want to lose too much tea, bro.
Right.
What do you think in the fantasy genre specifically is your biggest blind spot that you'd like to put in your rear view mirror eventually?
Yeah, it's got to be Robin Hobb now probably.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I've
Why is
not
that?
touched any. So when I started my channel that year, it was my Cosmere. I hadn't read any of the Cosmere, and so
Okay.
I read the entire Cosmere in a year, and that was kind of like that big series. That was my goal that year, and then this year it was going to be Malazan, and I quickly realized the palatability of Malazan is not on the same level as the Cosmere, and so that was
They're very different.
they're very different. Which like I knew going in, but I didn't think it would be as taxing as it was, and especially Dead House Gates. Dead House Gates was a rough experience for me, and so that definitely slowed me down some. And so my original plan was to be almost done with Malazan at this point, and then Hob would be the next big long one I went into because I read Wheel of Time before I had made any videos or anything. So I've always kind of had one of the big long series going at a time. And actually, I guess I have 2 right now with Malazan and The Wars of Light and Shadow with Janny Works.
Yeah, that's not an easy
No,
series to read either. So
no, I mean I appreciate it, but it's it's
it's
not one that you're gonna blitz through.
you shouldn't. Some books demand a little bit of time, and that's certainly one of them. I think Malazan's that way as well. Coming from the
Yeah,
guy who read
completely
all
agree.
10 in 8 months, but I have an addiction issue and
Yeah,
kept reading them. So yeah, so Dead House Case was a little rough. Philip says they were a little rough for most of the characters too, and I couldn't agree more. Did you?
that's very true.
I'm curious about this. When you finished it up, you had your problems with it or whatever. Did you find yourself appreciating it more after discussing it with folks or looking up like how did that go? Or is it pretty much a standard
Yeah, I
like this is
definitely
kind of ass?
no. So I really liked the beginning of it,
Uh-huh.
and then the end of it. It's that big chunk in the middle that I didn't have the best time with, and
Uh-huh.
I think maybe part of it was I don't want to say I didn't care because I was invested. It just felt like maybe there was so much going on at points that I was just like, am I supposed to understand this? And then I just kind of accepted that maybe no, and was just kind of like, so does this even matter? Should I really be like giving this as much attention as I should? And there were definitely some characters that I was really attached to in that book.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I finished it, I mean, the ending is great, fantastic,
Yeah,
and I did
big.
watch some. Yeah, yeah, the ending to that is, I mean, talk about something you won't forget once you read it.
Hey, that's
And then
that's
I
a
did watch some
Sanderson.
chats.
That's a Sanderson Erickson bridge. They both really like piling it on at the end.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And so I watched some like discussions of it after the fact, and those probably helped my understanding of it and enjoyment of it a little bit. But it's
Mm-hmm.
still, I mean, it's my least favorite of the 3 I've read, which obviously not a big sample size. But yeah, I definitely did appreciate it a little bit more after seeing some of those discussions and some stuff for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I feel that way about a lot of the books that I end up loving. Actually, is like kind of like settling down with it a little bit and then processing it afterwards. Blood Meridian comes to mind. I know you read that as well, and you put it in your, book site. Take your time with these type of books. And
yeah,
ironically, Malazan in many ways At time, I should not many ways. It sometimes reminded me a bit of my Blood Meridian reading experience, not
Okay.
necessarily the stories or anything. But I have hope for you. I have hope for you later into Malazan because I think the best parts are still to come. I know a lot of
Yeah.
people have book two as their favorite. I know Alan's a big champion of it, and there's plenty of other people, Chain of Dogs, all this stuff.
Mm,
But for
yeah.
me personally, I mean, the three going into four, and then five, six, eight, nine, ten, like all those, like those
Yeah.
are the ones that I
They're the
really think
best.
about. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. So just know that there's a lot that Malazan can offer you, and it's very different each time you go into it. So like, there's kind
Hmm.
of that nice thing of like if one didn't work or you dragged a little bit here and there, like it's going to be probably fairly different in the next one. So there's always a
Yeah.
chance of getting
And
around
that
to it.
was my
But
experience. That was my experience with Memories of Ice. Like I thoroughly enjoyed Memories of Ice. Significant. Like I was really worried going into Memories of Ice. I was like, if this is the same, if I feel the same way about Memories of Ice that I did about Dead House Gates, I've just got to be done with the series. Like I'll stop a series. I won't stop a book. But
but you'll DNF a series.
yeah, the series, yeah. But a book, no.
Oh,
See, I
ah.
have my escape route. You know.
This is, I'll tell you what. When
Yeah.
you think you know this guy,
Hmm.
he's a little slippery. He's like a wet orange. Wah, wah, wah.
But yeah, I am.
Got a soundboard, ladies and gentlemen.
I did not know that was an option. That's great. Oh,
You
that's
get it all
awesome.
here at the Fantasy
Mhm.
Network. I don't know, man. I think Robin Hobb will be an interesting one. I'm not willing to put the seal that you're going to love it, but I want to see you go through it for
Yeah.
sure. And the nice thing about Realm of the Elderlings is breaking it up is very easy to do. And it's
Yeah.
one of those series. Thankfully, there's a lot of content on it. So if you take breaks between like Farseer, Live Ship, or any of the sub series, you're going to be able to get back into the swing of things, get a little recap, and voila, you're on to
Yep.
the next one 6 months later, and you don't feel all that removed, which is
Hmm.
really, really nice. So
Yeah.
I'll be interested to see how you go through it. I think there's a good chance you're going to like it, but I'm always a little nervous to recommend Robin Hobb because I loved that series so much and love her writing, and
Hmm.
so many of my dear friends despise it. And
Yeah.
and now I'm like gun shy to recommend it because I'm like, oh, maybe this isn't as universal as I
No,
once
I
thought.
think it's going to be one I like. I definitely do. Just from the things I hear about it, I think it is going to be something like. I'm normally the kind of person that, and this makes me feel good about Malazan in the same way. Normally, the deeper I get into a series, the more I like books. Like my favorite Wheel of Time book is like the 12th Wheel of Time book. So a lot of times, the deeper I get into something,
The
the
more you
more
get
I end
invested.
up in. Like my favorite Expanse book, which this isn't like I think most people feel either. There's only a few options for the Expanse that most people say, but like it's the second to last Expanse book is my favorite Expanse book. So like as I get deeper in, I normally am much more invested. I care about it more, and that's just kind of been a pattern I've noticed in my reading.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that that's all that uncommon either. I mean, the more time you
No,
spend
no,
with something, some people probably be like, that's, you're just getting into a weird mix of the sunken cost fallacy to rose tinted glass, or something.
sure,
But simply, if you're enjoying your time with it, of course, you're going to get more and more emotional. And I will say this, I feel as if since I've read Realm of the Elderlings, I have read a lot of really great characters since then, but I have not been as attached to some of the characters that I've read about as much since then. Like that was a pretty high
hmm
bar for me and my subjective reading experience. I'm not saying that you're going to have this
sure,
experience everyone else does, but I had a really tough time getting into other cast of characters as I went. I used 16 books. A lot of them keep going
yeah,
on and on and on, and they grow. Some of them stay the same to a frustrating amount because truly I'm still somewhat like I was when I was a dumb 15-year-old or a dumb 25-year-old even, like
yeah,
you can relate. We talked about the whole anger thing. You're like, is it still in there? Maybe it's still in there, who knows.
right, yeah, exactly,
So for me, that's what I got out of that series was working through the character relationships and how the story kind of ebbed and flowed through that. It's not the most plot driven thing in the world.
yeah,
Epic fantasy, maybe not. Epic slice of life, yes. That's how I kind of
yeah.
think of it.
I think that'll end up working for me because that's on. This might be I don't know if a lot of people would feel this way, but like with the Wheel of Time, like as frustrating as some of those characters are, the journey that I go on with those characters is what makes that series my favorite fantasy series.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily all the plot and everything. And so when I hear people talk about the characters and everything that goes on in Realm of the Elderlings, I'm like, well, I know how attached I was to the characters in Wheel of Time. I can only imagine what it's going to be like with how everyone talks about Realm of the Elderlings.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things that's kind of interesting about it is you're talking about two massive series, but very different series in the fact that they're told from third person perspective to first person perspective, and that's one of the things that I always kind of found to be a not a strength, but kind of impressive. Maybe one of the more impressive things is how the world is built out, and the side characters relationships to each other are actually built out from a first person perspective, which is not something that you see all the time. It's usually much more personal. Psychic distance is a little bit closer. You kind of have ideas of exactly what's going on in the person's head and how they're feeling in the moment, how they felt about it in the future, or whatever it might be if it's told in like a past tense. But
Yeah.
Hob actually does a pretty nice job of building out side characters from a first person perspective. And anyone that's ever tried to write, I think that they can probably relate that that's not a super duper easy thing to do. Usually you're so focused on making that first person character compelling
Right.
and someone you can attach to or at least have thoughts about, and then to build out a cast around that. I mean, that's a very difficult thing to do in the craft of writing and storytelling, I think. So I'll be very excited to see what you think of it as you go through it, and you know, watch my videos about it, man. I really need the views. Like Tom, I really need you to watch those videos.
I'll get the bot army, and you know, you send the check over, and there you go.
Let's go.
There you go.
Great video. Cam link here. Yeah, I can't wait, man.
Yeah.
I did drop a little bit of an Easter egg, I guess, or maybe a bit of a breadcrumb to get back to later, and that was talking about how you are actually going to try to read some Romantasy. And Fantasy Watch wanted to know exactly which ones you were planning on, and the Bee's Knees says you're putting the T in Romantasy, which I think is absolutely hysterical. But what Romantasy are you reading? I know because I watched your video, but tell the people here, and also tell them why.
So I am reading The Phoenix Keeper. This is a new release by, who is it, S.A. McLean? That's close, if not 100% correct. But this was a new release, and the reason I'm reading it is because Romantasy has obviously become such like a staple of fantasy at this point. I know a lot of people have a lot of very complex feelings on that for some reason, which I find fascinating. But I just kind of wanted to see, you know, what it was all about. And I didn't want to go with one of the big like, what is it, Fifth Wing and the Sarah J. Maas ones that I can never remember the name of the series. But I didn't want to start there just because it seems like that's where everyone starts with them. So I wanted to try something that was new and see what it was like. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I think you know, Sarah J. Maas is a must. So I talk about this a lot, but I want to read them so I can talk to Kelsey, my wonderful wife, about them because she is reading through Game of Thrones and now a Clash of Kings. Actually, her and my best friend are both into Clash of Kings, and they're sending me snippets of things they're liking, and it's making me so happy. And I'm like, God, I hope I like A Court of Thorn and Roses, because if I'm just sending snippets and dumping on it, that'll be no good. And Fifth Wing is
Fifth
fourth
Wing. What did I say? Fourth Wing.
Fifth Wing is the much-awaited sequel series by the Mormon lady. What's her name? Rebecca Yaros, I think, is her name. Yes. I think that's cool, dude. Again, this is something. This is like one of the reasons why I chat to you, because I feel like you're willing to try new things and you're not afraid to branch out, which is cool. So I'll be excited to kind of see how you end up with that. I mean, do you think it's going to be a hit? And if you like it, do you think you'll continue down the genre?
I've already started. I think, I don't know how far. I've started it already, and so far I'm enjoying it. It is interesting because it's a romantic, like, you know, a romantic book. There's like I want to call it male gaze, but like that's not what, like it. That's honestly, I guess, the point of it a little bit.
Lady gaze.
Yeah, I mean, so it is coming from a female perspective, but like every time she sees this one character, she's talking about like her perfect hair, how perfect her skin is, just like her perfect body, just all of these things. And that is something that I've become a little bit more sensitive to as I've read more and more. Same thing with like sexual violence in a lot of fantasy. It's like such an easy thing to like throw in to make somebody a bad guy or just like make it the worst thing that can happen to somebody. And so it's something I've definitely become a little bit more like aware of and sensitive to. Not necessarily like I don't want to read it, just in the fact that wow, this is like super prevalent. Is there not? Can we not be a little bit more creative of like what can happen to somebody?
Yeah, or how to make someone detestable, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I don't know, but then reading it in like an actual romantic setting, I don't know, it's just kind of a little jarring for me. But it's been an interesting experience.
Nice. I like it. You're open-minded. You're willing to ride with it. You bring up a great point about the villains that we see a lot of. And I kind of did ask you, I generally don't really preamble much, but I did ask you if you had any ideas for villains who aren't just sociopathic, physical, sexual abusers and, you know, that you think are really quality villains or antagonists that you've read in the story. And I'd love to hear some of them if you prepared any.
Yes, I did. I did my homework.
All right.
So I actually already mentioned this book a little bit when we talked about sci-fi, but the Carrix, I believe is how you pronounce it, from Mercy of the Gods, which is the alien species that comes down. So, you know, from the perspective of the human, they are like the villains. They are the antagonists. They are coming down, murdering everybody, but also keeping people. And there's this weird, and I also wanted to include the Trisolarans from the Three Body Problem here, because I think they both fit like, okay, they're doing something evil to us, but are they even seeing it as evil themselves? I think in the Three Body Problem, you could probably say yes, they kind of know what they're doing because they're significantly more antagonistic to humans. But in Mercy of the Gods, it's much more of they think of us so much lesser as a being that I don't even think that they can understand like the cruelty that they're putting on to the humans in that experience. And I think that makes them a fascinating like counter to our human main characters.
Yeah, and,
So
and they're looking at they're looking at like morality and everything from like a different perspective almost.
Right, completely different.
Very, very interesting. I had a couple rolling. Or did you have some more? Actually, I'd love to hear more.
Oh yes, I do have some more. So
Yeah,
honestly,
just
the first one that you mentioned when you asked me that question was Umbridge from Harry Potter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean she's just the worst. But like, you know,
Huh.
in her eyes, she's like not necessarily a villain. She's doing horrible things, but to her, this is discipline. This is how you need to teach children. This is, you know, everything that is wrong with the current system that she's taking over from, and you know, she's instilling value and all this other stuff
I
to
know
the
that
students.
a lot of people hate her.
Yes,
So
a lot of
that
people
is
hate her.
it
She is
definitely
detestable. She is. I mean,
resonated
she
with the
is.
readership. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. The main bad guy I don't even know if you really want to call him a bad guy, but the antagonist from the Aurelian Cycle that I mentioned earlier, he is a
Ooh.
fascinating villain. The so the Aurelian Cycle is like a mixture of like French Revolution and an Anastasia story where like you have a government overthrown, but part of the royalty survives and then ends up like living as an orphan and then working their way up to
Okay.
being back into a place of power. And it's I don't want to spoil too much of it, but the person who overthrows the government is then also a very important figure, and you can see that some of the things he has done and changed is fantastic. Like life is better under his rule in very specific ways, but then he is also the person who overthrew a government and had people murdered and
Mm-hmm.
you know all those kinds of things. So he's another one of those gray, but in a different kind of sense. He's really only gray because we're looking at it through a very specific character's eyes, right? There's plenty of other characters who look at this person as a savior, as a true like hero to them as a society. And
Yeah.
so I think he's pretty fascinating.
Okay. I
Yeah.
like that. I
Yep.
like that.
Yep.
Making me want to read this more and more.
That is one of the series where I'm a little nervous to tell people to read just because like I read it long enough ago and loved it that I'm like,
Ah.
yeah, that's one of those ones. Another one I had on my list was his name is Winston Duarte. He's from The Expanse.
I don't know if
It's a
I've
little
met
bit of a
him.
spoiler.
Have I?
He did you
I've read 3
did,
books.
ooh, I don't know if you would have met him yet. I don't think so.
His
I don't think you
existence is not a
probably.
spoiler, don't worry.
No, his no. I mean, he's there. But to keep it vague, he does some stuff, changes a lot of things, and has his own way of doing things that is both very interesting and compelling, and also terrifying from like a government aspect. So kind of similar to the person I just mentioned from the Aurelian cycle, where it's kind of like an overarching government kind of thing that is both terrifying, but you could also see like the beauty in it a little bit
Yeah.
if you squint and look.
All right.
And then from the Adan trilogy by Philip Chase, he has a very compelling villain. Yeah, he has a really good one. I know, the Philip Chase.
Who?
Name drop. Juramon.
Duramon. Okay,
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I found him to be really compelling. And it's a massive spoiler for me to talk about why I ended up finding him to be as compelling, because it happens in like the last quarter of the last book. But just know, it's good.
Okay. How much did Philip pay
Yeah.
you to do that? He promised you like a like what's the deal? Did he
Well,
give you a promo
I
code?
told you
Or-
the bidding starts at 3 figures, so I mean it only goes up from there.
He outbid Manscaped. That's crazy.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
He's got that Audible money now with the audiobook being available right now on Amazon.com, narrated by Alan Walker. Buy today.
Yeah.
Pay me, Philip. Please. I'm struggling. I'm struggling
And
so
then-
bad.
I told you the bot army, it can fix all your problems.
Thank God.
Yeah. And then the last real one I had is the White Cloaks and the Shan Chan from Wheel of Time.
I do like the Shan Chan. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's another one of those, it almost fits into First Contact a little bit, because it's just such a different society coming in with such a different thought and opinions and everything, because, you know, they're coming in and just being something that Rand Land has never seen before. You know, it's just such a different thing.
Yeah, and they immediately make their presence known in
Yes,
pretty
yes, they do.
awful ways, right?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, definitely. Bart's Bookspace says, "I've only read the first 3 Expanse books. Need to get back. Got to get back to it." Same here, Bart. I loved all 3. I don't know why I don't make them more of a priority. I really should, especially as I'm a fan of Daniel Abraham.
Yeah, you should. They're great.
Yeah, I definitely should. Did you have any more on your list?
I think from Mistborn, the Lord Ruler himself.
I
is
considered
pretty-
putting Lord Ruler on my list.
Yep. Yeah, I think he's, because if you, once again, spoilers for Mistborn, if you're the one person who hasn't read it, just once you know why he is and what he has done, I think it makes him much more compelling than just like the bad guy, right? And I think that's a twist.
You know how I know
that's
you're
pretty
such a
good.
nice guy is because that's not a spoiler at all, and you were like, "Spoiler."
I-
There's no spoiler there. You're fine.
I'm very like, so it's funny because spoilers don't really bother me all that much. Like, I think endings to books are normally overrated. Like, people care way too much about the ending of books, of series, and everything. It's like, whatever. If I hear a little spoiler, it's like, okay, that's fine. I don't care. Whatever. I'm still gonna read it.
I'm
Doesn't
a little bit more spoiler adverse than you, but I am on the same wavelength about endings, and I'm sure my audience is tired of me talking about it so much, so I won't go into my diatribe about it, but I
They're
respect
overrated.
that. But you're conscious of other people. It's almost like you
Yeah.
it's almost like you have some self-awareness. That's a beautiful thing, Tom, that you got there. More people could probably stand to have that. I got a couple I would love to list off, and I think one's going to surprise people a little bit because I got a lot of high praise to heap on this character from this author that I take a little pot shots at every now and then. But I think Ike Mata from the Greenbone Saga is quite a great villain, and also makes sense in every way possible. And if the story was told on the other side of the clan war, Ike Mata would be the hero, maybe protagonist at the very least. So I think that Ike Mata has to be up there. And then would definitely say Getter from the Dagger and the Coin. I saw Anitha said, "I'm surprised Jimmy hasn't mentioned the antagonist from Dagger and Coin." If you'd let me get there, Anitha, I was gonna do it. You killed all the suspense. I think Getter is one of my favorite characters I've ever read about, and I think he actually is what makes that series go from good to great. And Getter, I can't talk about because of spoilers, but he's another person I think that thinks about the world in a different way and has a lot of past experiences that shape who he is as well, because he wasn't treated the best or wasn't handled properly at some points. So I definitely feel as if I feel like that's probably up there. Another one would be Gia from the Dandelion Dynasty, specifically later in the series. I think one of the more compelling characters. I wanted to put Cersei on this list, Cersei Lannister, but instead I actually picked Gia, not because I think Gia is better, but because I feel like Cersei's obvious. So I wanted to kind of go with something else that kind of reminds me of her in a totally different way, but still justifiably evil at moments, maybe, possibly. At least you can see her justification for it. And then the one that I was thinking about, and it's been on my mind a lot lately, and I have a lot of praise for this, is actually Taravangian from the Stormlight Archive. I think it's not only the best antagonist in that series, I think it's the best character Sanderson's ever written. And I also think that he would make a top 10, possibly top 5 antagonist list if I made one for fantasy. That's how much I love Taravangian. I think that character is so good. I love it.
Yeah, I thought about him as well. I don't know why I didn't put him on there, but he's one. And I almost wanted to be tricky and be like Dalinar, just from a different perspective. Especially if you think of young Dalinar, absolutely is like a villain to so many people. But that just feels like a little bit of cheating because, from our perspective, But like if you like squint and like turn your head a little bit, you can totally see how Dalinar is like a huge villain.
Yeah, and maybe that's a better way of putting it, like nuanced characters, because I know there's gonna be someone comment and says that like Gia from Dandelion Dynasty is not a villain, and I'm not really saying she's a villain, but I'm just saying she definitely antagonizes at moments. And the point of this is to kind of highlight maybe some of the characters that I find to be maybe just a little bit more effort stuck in them than just the good old fashioned I kick puppies and stab children with forks, kind of thing, and just a little deeper. Just a little bit deeper. And I think all of the ones mentioned probably fall into that. But Taravangian is so good.
That is a great pick. Yeah, I'm super curious on what's going to happen.
Who knows, dude? Who knows?
I know. Everyone who read the preview chapters?
I am reading the preview chapters.
Oh, are you? Okay, I have not.
I'm just going to tell you guys, I was not pleased with the first few. I was very concerned with almost all of part 1. And then I got to the interludes and they were straight gas. Like honestly, some of the best stuff in Stormlight so far. And since those chapters, I'm in.
Okay.
I'm in. So thank God, because, secret projects were very wobbly for me. And I was like, this is going in a direction I'm not caring for. But, buddy, there's some good stuff there. But Taravangian, in my opinion, Sanderson's best work. I would love to see Taravangian in another series even. Like, I would love to just transport him into other fantasy series. He's so fascinating in many ways. Yeah. So, hopefully I'm not overhyping him for people who maybe aren't as big on Sanderson and give it a shot. I'd be worried that maybe I've overhyped him at this point, but
no, I think he definitely, he's a great example of what you're going for with this question, because he definitely fits. He is a good one.
Yeah, definitely. And one that I think is kind of tough to relate to at times, but you can still get there. Epic fantasy, not dead, still around. 2 big books releasing here soon. We got Tad Williams releasing his final book in the main series of Ostenard, which is incredible. And then, of course, Wind and Truth. But you read a book that isn't brand new, but did come from an author that's a little bit newer to the genre, but has been a reader for a long time. He's also a booktuber who just beat death, which we're so happy he did. And that's Brian Lee Durfee, The Forgetting Moon, book 1 in the 5 War Angels. You read The Forgetting Moon, and it is so far your book of the year.
Fantasy book.
Fantasy book of the year. Sorry.
Yes, yeah.
I like to spread misinformation. It's kind of my thing.
Oh, that's fine. But yeah, I had such a great time with that book. It's one of those series, and I don't know if you do this, but I do this with a lot of series where I'm like, I'm very confident that I'm going to like this, so I'm not going to read it until I think it's like actually like this is when it's going to happen. Like I'm feeling it. Everything like is going to be perfect for this experience. And so that's kind of part of why I put off The Forgetting Moon for so long. And then I was right. I had such a good time with it. Yeah.
Do you feel like part of that is because you felt that he took a page out of Bobby J's book, Bobby Jordan, Robert Jordan? Like being a Wheel of Time fan?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, fuck me. You're killing me, Tom. I thought that there was a little bit of Robert Jordan in there, but more so Tad Williams, actually. I think that he really, and Tad's his favorite dude, and he also does love Robert Jordan and many other people. But I thought just the rich descriptions, like he wasn't afraid to take some time and describe what people were wearing and, you know, those finer details that some people get a little bit annoyed about with Robert Jordan.
Yeah, those don't bother me with Jordan. So I guess I hear that as a common complaint for Jordan, and I'm just like, I mean, he's just telling me what's going on. I feel like I need to know, and so I never even like actively think about how much explanation you get for a setting in a Jordan book, which is hilarious when I just think about like, man, I know like what every button looked like on that dress she was wearing and the inside of that carnival thing that they rode around, that wagon they ride around in, and just, I don't know, I guess for whatever reason, that just, I mean, of course they're going to tell me about that. And so I guess that's just not something I actively think about.
When you said I don't actively think, I thought you were going to say I don't actively think when I read. I thought that's what you were going to say. And I'm like, bro, you're really hurting the stigma that we're trying to fight back against. You know, first Jeff Nipper gets attacked in a gym this week, and now you're doing crazy. This. Yeah, how stupid. How stupid.
That kept me up from going to bed because I saw it late at night, and I was like, I tried to start talking to my girlfriend about it, and she literally looks at me and she's like, it's midnight, I'm going to bed. And I'm in Reddit threads like, can you believe this happened?
Why do you see? That's why you need to text me, because I was like, I won't stand for this.
Yeah, dude, what a crazy thing. I can't not.
But you're making us look bad.
That's okay.
Wait, did I see what? Did
you see the full clip?
Oh yeah.
Or did you just? Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, I saw it. And for people who have no idea what the hell we're talking about, a very kind and wonderful Canadian fitness influencer was attacked by a roid head who used to be a bodyguard for Drake. He's got a weird case. Why is he around? Wop 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 wop. I couldn't help myself.
Two Drake mentions this stream.
Yeah, not a great year for Drizzy. Not a great year, but a good year for Brian Lee Durfee because he came back from death, beat it. I love that. Did you feel like you had to like his book?
No.
I mean, that's a lot of pressure, bro.
No, it is. I did think about that when I was going to read it. I was like, man, what if I don't like this? And like, he's on what seems to be like the positive side of everything that happened with it. And I'm just like, this is awful.
Glad you made it. Book's ass. Yeah, that would not.
I did think about that. Thankfully, that's not the exact opposite. I got to just be like, because I feel like that's one of those books that people talked about when it first came out. Now it's been a couple years and it doesn't get talked about nearly as much. And so now I get to be like the next wave of like, hey, read this awesome book. Read this awesome. I'm assuming series. I'm assuming I'm going to like the next two.
Yeah, Blackest Heart's just as good. I think I actually have not read book 3, and I'm going to be honest. The reason why is because I waited so long. There's not a recap. I remember I had Durfee on Chatting with Nuts, and I was like, "Bro, why don't you do some recaps?" And he's like, "No." He's like, "Authors hate writing those." And I was like,
"I don't care. Do it for me."
Yeah, and I'm like, "Please, for the love of God, I just need a little bit." Now there's some spoiler discussions out there. I know Josh from Red Fear Books talked about it. He was either hosted or he was a part of a stream where they all talked about it, which is really nice.
Okay.
But I need to get to it and finish it up. There's some pretty cool characters in there. It's a series full of mysteries and what's really real. A lot of red herrings, which I like. Yep. I think those are a lot of fun. Getting back to the roots of a lot of the fantasy that he grew up with, that he really loved, but also throwing in some of the most just like wacky, horrific, grim things that you could possibly think of.
Absolutely.
Definitely very graphic. Little bit of that male gaze in there, which I guess is maybe a callback to the fantasy he grew up loving, probably. But
yes, absolutely.
But I thought the series was just off the rails, insane for the most part.
I had to like that. It took me a little bit of self-control to just not be like, forget everything else. I'm going right to the Blackest Heart.
Do it.
I'm too regimented.
Why?
It's another one of my book flaws.
What are you going to do, Tom? Do periodization for books?
It's funny you say that. I do a little bit.
You fucking meathead.
I can't help it. Habits die hard.
I just add 5 pages on the bar every time I read, and then I get smarter. Progressive
Exactly.
overloading my brain.
Yeah, if I read 1 word a minute faster every week for the next couple years, I'll be able to finish every book I ever want to read. Did you think about that?
I don't believe you. I think you'll just continue to find more and more books that you'll want to read, and then you'll eventually reread Cersei, and then you'll love it.
Oh, someone would have to. We'd be bumping up to the 4 digits to get me to reread that.
Dang. Okay. Okay. That bad, huh?
Oh man, one of the worst.
Not a fan.
I've had. Not a fan. I know so many people that love it too, and so sometimes I'm like, am I wrong? And then I'm just like, no.
Well, it's awkward because Madeline Miller is a big fan of the show, and I actually have her backstage right now. Madeline, come on in. Come on in,
I'd love
Madeline.
to tell her. I'd love to tell her how I feel.
Wait, Madeline. She left.
Oh, she left?
She left. Oh, yeah, this is awkward.
She can watch it on replay.
I got to get that appearance feedback, or we are going to be under. This is not good, Tom. Tom, we were having a good time. I was having a good interview. And
I don't know if I have that many bots.
It was going so well, Tom.
Well.
And you hated on the special guest.
Yeah.
It was a new segment called What Matters with Madeline Miller, and you ruined it, dude. You ruined the new segment. I'm not getting the appearance feedback. I know that.
Well.
What are you reading next month, Tom? That'll bring the viewers back.
I don't even know.
No, me either. I try to just mood read mostly.
I mean, I do actually, because I'm too regimented in it. I actually know exactly what I'm reading.
So you lied.
I did. But then I told on myself. So is it really a lie if you instantly tell the truth?
That's a good question. We could ask my ex-wife. What's your philosophy behind reviewing, Tom? Could you tell me a little more about how you feel about ratings?
Oh, I love them. I actually do. I think it's great. I know so many people. It's one of my favorite discussions to have with people is like the whole, can you be objective? Should you even be objective? Like, what does a star rating mean? And I do think it's funny because it is definitely a unique experience, but isn't that the point of reading? It's a very unique, individual to you experience.
Yeah.
And so I totally understand people who try to be very objective about what they feel about a book. Do they think that the writing is good? Is the story all put together? Are the characters compelling? All of that stuff. That's all great. But in the end, I'm doing this for enjoyment. I'm doing this for fun. I could be doing something else, but
yeah.
Why would I why would I say, hey, I didn't enjoy this book, but it's so well done technically that it's a 5-star book? I don't know. I wouldn't. So why? I don't.
Dang. That's just how it is.
Yeah, just how it is. Like Joanna and I both kind of feel the same way about Gates of Fire by Stephen Pressfield. I think I got it right this time. But it's basically like the Battle of Thermopylae, so the Spartans 300 and everything. And we both talk about like, oh, it's so well done. I can get all these things that this book is trying to do, put together, characters, compelling moments, action, everything you could think of that makes like a great story, like technically. And we both are like, don't get that book. We're just like, nah, it's not. And so like, what am I supposed to do with that? I didn't really like it, so I gave it the 2 stars. That's what it means to me.
That you felt that it deserved in the moment that you read it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think I probably err on the side with you and Joanna for the most part. I think me and Philip had a good back and forth. Me and him agree somewhat, but we don't completely agree on the idea of reviews and how you should go about them, because I think just wanting any sort of standard to reviewing is probably like null and void. Like, I just don't think that that's ever going to happen. And, people are coming at different things at different times in their life with different levels of experience and different levels of expertise. And I'm not saying that, as people, when we see people talk about books, like we got to know who's saying what, why they are saying what they are, what their tastes are, their background, all that stuff's important. But at the end of the day, like you said, we could be doing anything else. At least we're talking about books and giving our ratings.
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand. Like, I think it's good that we have both. That we have people who do try to be more objective about things and are like, "Hey, this didn't work for me, X, Y, and Z, but this is like the technical aspects of it." When you like really break it down of like what is a story, what is all of this. I think it's nice that to have avenues where you can go to and look for that kind of stuff. But I don't know. It goes back to like it's such an individual experience like reading is. And it's like I don't know how you can like try to put that in like a standardized way to like can't give me a Scantron and expect me to like fill out how I feel about a book. It's just too emotional. It's too individual, and like there can't be that key to me.
Yeah, and I think for guys like us, we both kind of work in a similar field. We might not do the exact same job, but we're in a similar field. We both go to the gym. We have regimens we keep. We keep track of the numbers and every. I assume you do.
Of course.
Of course you do. So it's kind of nice to get. I don't want to say looser, but come at something from a little bit of a different angle that's not as calculated, I guess. But you're still critically thinking. You're still trying to figure out the way you feel about a book and what it's trying to relate to you and making a judgment off of it based on that. So now, but you still kind of let that seep in because you got the spreadsheet and your stuff going on, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. And, but that's all like individual to me. It's not like using somebody else's rubric or anything like that, which is kind of like the one distinction I guess I have. But yeah, I do have that habit of keeping, like, I have notebooks of like my workouts going back like, I don't know, 6-8 years at this point.
Valuable.
Just a bunch of, yeah. I have in the drawer over there. I have so many notebooks that are just full of workouts.
What is the squat of the fantasy genre?
The squat?
Yeah.
The fantasy genre, like a series?
Whatever you want, brother. I don't even know what I'm asking right now.
You know what? No, I like it. The squat of the fantasy genre. So like something that is really important that everybody should do. Basic movement. So it's got to be kind of basic. It's got to be like a big basic series that everybody.
But quality.
But quality, of course.
Worth doing.
Worth doing. I'm kind of leaning towards Stormlight is the squat.
Stormlight as the squat. Squat and Stormlight.
Yeah, squat and Stormlight.
I was thinking something a little bit more foundational myself. I was going to say maybe Lord of the Rings is what I was going to go with.
Okay, I can see that.
Okay, good functional move.
Song of Ice and Fire is definitely the bench press.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah, definitely the bench press.
What is
deadlift?
The bicep curl of fantasy?
The bicep curl. Ooh.
Answer very carefully.
Yeah, that is, I mean, such an important movement. Got to juice up the arms. But it's kind of light work still.
It's light work, but you can get really into it, but it's eye candy,
It is eye candy.
It's summer muscles, the tank top.
Man, why? Curls is a hard one. Because it's got to be light.
By the way, we had one Jeff Nibbard fan in the audience, just one.
You know what? That's honestly more than I thought we were going to get. So.
The bicep curl.
The bicep curl.
Somebody said Conan. I kind of like that answer. Someone said first
that is
wall.
Actually. No, I think Cohen's like. I mean, that's a good one. That's solid.
Someone said Guy Gavin-Case calf raises. That's Red Rising is bicep curls. Someone said Akatar's, but I could see Red Rising being bicep curls.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's an extra. Hey, you can bust a sweat with some good preacher curls. You can.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
But it's got that a little bit of eye candy, a little pop, a little spectacle to it.
That works. Yeah, I got super into strict curls for a while.
Oh, bro,
dude,
it's about that loaded eccentric.
I thought I was gonna like. I thought about competing in strict curl competitions. That's the level we got to.
Yeah. But you're more of a you're doing the big three, right?
So with the strongman training, squat and deadlift squat and bench really aren't as important.
Right.
I still do squat, and bench is like a complete secondary movement. Like I don't start most people start their chest day with like bench or something because it's that big. movement. But for me now, it's actually some kind of overhead press, whether that be with the log or an axle or a circus dumbbell. Those are kind of the big three movements that I'll do as an overhead for strongman now.
Nice, dude. That's
Yeah.
impressive stuff. Do you listen to audiobooks while you work out, or do you listen to music?
Cardio, yes, I will do audiobooks. But no, I do try to like get into a decent zone, and I wouldn't pay attention to the audiobook if I'm like actually working out. But cardio, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
T Baggin says Malazan is dumbbell flies. I would say it's the clean and jerk. Very difficult movement. We think it's worth it.
A snatch maybe would even work better.
Snatch,
A snatch is just, you know.
I'm trying to think
Definitely,
who
yeah.
would be the Kegel. A pelvic
That's gotta be.
floor.
I mean, that's got to be. Was it fourth wing, fifth wing?
Fifth wing. Fifth wing is the Kegel of the fantasy.
Too easy on that one.
I've been doing them the whole show. Actually, I've been doing Kegels this entire time.
It's impressive.
Someone said not safe for work talk here. I mean, I guess. Maybe.
I mean, you know, we're just talking
It's a
about
medical
exercise.
term, I think, right? Cushiel's dart.
Oh, man.
Oh my God. Oh, this is fun. This has been a good time, Tom. I feel like
Absolutely.
you're so nice and like welcoming, and then I decided to go completely unhinged, high off whatever's on this mustache that I don't know if I'm gonna get off my face, and
I don't think you should even try. This is the new you.
this is the new me. It is never
Yeah.
coming off, dude. Ever.
It's grown on me. It
is.
has.
It makes me look older, I would say. It may be possibly, affiliated with like law enforcement. I think that also kind of gives it.
I get asked if I'm a firefighter like once a day.
Oh, I'm so dumb. You do look like a firefighter. I was going to make a lumberjack joke at you as well. HR is the one who made the not safe for work here. HR. See?
That's brilliant. Actually,
That was actually really funny.
man, that's really good.
See, this is how you can tell I'm a crap reader. I don't close read at all. I totally missed that
Yeah,
completely.
I completely missed it too. We lift weights. We don't read. It's
Yeah.
all a farce.
Yeah,
None of this is real.
No, I'm just here for the fancy book editions and Broken Binding. I'm begging you, please sponsor me. I'm literally begging you. Also, please reprint Heroes Die in a ridiculous cover, like the original cover, but just make it more ridiculous. That would make me very, very happy, dude. I would love for you to read Heroes Die.
I actually watched your Ireland. That was the Ireland vlog, right? Is that
Yes.
book? Yes, I did watch that. So I'm slightly intrigued by it, just because the whole different Earth thing. that you
Well, or
talked
different
about
Earth, but
is
you also
pretty-
you understand toxic masculinity as well as I do, and I think that you would be
Absolutely.
very. It's a testosterone filled book, fueled book, but it's also mocking it in many ways. I would love to hear your ideas about it. That would be cool.
I'll have to put it on the list.
If you like it, we can buddy read the sequels because I'm just looking for a
Okay.
reason to get into them, and apparently they get like really crazy. Like
Okay,
the first book
interesting.
kind of different than the rest, so maybe it'll be something that we could do together. I feel like we got to do something together at this point. We have
Yeah,
way too much
yeah,
in common.
absolutely.
So me and Tom talked
Yeah.
for like 15 minutes before the stream started, and literally I was like, we could probably talk for 3 hours and not talk about books at all because we have so many other things in common,
Yeah.
and interest and whatnot. But you are a biker, which I've never understood why 2 wheels instead of 4. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. It's absolute like I say this all the time. It is the dumbest thing I do. Nobody should do it. If you are thinking of doing it, don't. It's a horrible idea. It is like just every time I go out to go on a ride, I legitimately think to myself, this might be the last thing I ever do. Which is
That's
like a
not
horrifying thing to. No, it's not. It is. It's not. But it's a lot of fun. It's a great time.
Is
And
it
it's
is
so
it the
hard
thrill?
to describe.
Like
So no, it's not. So like, I know people who ride crazy, and ridiculous speeds and all of that. And that's not even like what I enjoy doing. I enjoy like going on an adventure, going on a journey, particularly if I can go somewhere where I am not on pavement anymore. So I'm like finding a forest road out in the mountains, gravel roads, like that kind of stuff. Like I love it. I love being out there and just going on that adventure. And I think that is, something that really keeps me going with the riding stuff. Like I went all the way to Sturgis, South Dakota this year. It's like I did a 4,000-mile round trip from my house all the way through there.
You did not fit in there.
No, it was jarring. So like this wasn't my first motorcycle rally I went to. I also went to the Daytona Bike Week, which is like the second biggest one that they do. But Sturgis is like the biggest one in the world. And you want to talk about not fitting in. But I mean, dude, it's another world. Like going to Sturgis was as close as going to another planet with alien life as I will ever get. Like that is, and like, I mean, it's just nothing I've ever done compares to it. And I didn't even go to downtown Sturgis like during the craziest time. Like I went because I was there. I had to. I can only imagine if I was there like after dark.
Oh yeah, that's when the creatures come out, bro.
I mean, you should have seen the creatures I saw in the day.
That's when the Voidbringers come out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, great experience. Some of the best riding I've done. A really cool trip to go on and do. But yeah, I mean, don't get a motorcycle. Absolutely do not. It's a horrible idea. You'll probably die. And yeah, it's like it sounds ridiculous. Yeah, read a book. It sounds ridiculous, but I legitimately every time I get on, I'm like, I could die. This could literally be the last thing I do.
This might be a wrap.
And, yeah, this could be it. And then I'm jamming out to like a mixture of heavy metal, Taylor Swift, epic rap battles of history, and in my helmet, and just living in my own little world.
You're a mixed bag, and you're a bit confusing, and I like that because I've always felt like that was kind of me in the crowds that I ran with. And you would fit better in. Mentally, you're more of a Dragon Steel kind of guy, but physically, you look like you could go to Sturgis. So you're just
absolutely.
You're kind of a melting pot of interest and different personality traits, and I think that's what makes you kind of unique to listen to whenever you're reviewing books and talking about this. And one of the things I really like about you, Tom, is that you do keep it about the books. Everything about your channel is about what you're reading, your relationship with what you're reading, how you're reading these books, and I really like what you're doing over there, dude. I think it's great. I think that you've been able to. Yeah, absolutely, man. That's why I had you on. Outside of the fact that I also just thought that we could probably bro out pretty hardcore.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think that we have proven. You are catching a little bit of heat from the chat for not DNFing motorcycles, but or you won't DNF books or motorcycles, so you got to pick one. So figure it out. Is what we're asking you.
I'll have to flip a coin, figure it out.
I would vote for motorcycles, actually. I would vote for you to DNF motorcycles because I love you to be around.
My entire family, basically everybody I know except the people I ride with.
Is it a cry for help?
Everything's a cry for help,
So true. It's so based. It's so based. Tom, do you have anything that the folks can look forward to? Do you got some big projects coming up or anything in 2025 that's on the horizon that you're excited to talk about?
So personally, I enjoy all of like the end of the year wrap up stuff. So like December is just full of all of those really samey videos that every single person does.
They're awesome though.
I love them. They're the best videos everybody makes all year. So I have it all. Actually, I have some of it planned, but yeah, all kinds of this was my top 10 books. I'll have some stuff of like some big series that I'm going to try to start in next year. All those kinds of videos. The ones that everybody makes is what I'm going to be making in December. So yeah,
but from a nerdy biker standpoint that you can't get anywhere else right now. You have the market cornered, brother. There's nobody else doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I look forward to that. I enjoyed your 2023 videos. There's a lot of Sanderson on there. I'll be curious to see when In Truth makes that cut. Are you going to read it right when it comes out?
Yeah. So normally December is like I almost don't read it all in December is what my normal like plan was before I started BookTube and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So Wind and Truth will probably be the only thing I like hard plan to read in December.
Nice. Yeah.
So,
It's
yeah.
kind of ruining because I usually do like 3 to 5 Patreon picks in December and just go crazy. But
Okay.
it's gonna be difficult to do that with Wind and Truth. So I'm trying to think about
Yeah.
how I can do it, or if I push it to January. I actually have a great idea for it, but I'm not gonna tell anybody until we do it because I like to keep
Okay.
things a little bit under wraps.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
want to get the endorphin boost from saying it and then not doing it. It's not a good thing. You want to
Sure.
wait
Yeah.
until it comes to fruition. So,
Yeah.
tons of stuff to look forward to over there on Tom Orange's channel, folks. I have him tagged in the community post tab, and I think you're tagged below as well. So, folks, Tom Orange, a good guy, better than me. Love his unique take. Not afraid to read outside of the fantasy genre. Willing to expand your tastes as well. And honestly, probably who you should go to for nutritional and fitness advice. I think he's a pretty swole and swell guy all at the same time. Tom, where can people find you? Just YouTube, or do you have social media you want people to follow? What are you doing? You an Instagram girly, or?
I do have an Instagram, but you don't have to go there. You can just come to the YouTube.
Yeah, they don't get monetized on Instagram. Okay, we need you over there on
Exactly.
Tom.
It's all about it's all about the dollars. That's why we do this.
That's right. That's right. Talk to him. Grind, bro. Grind.
Yep. Just gotta grind. Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was episode 86 of Chatting with Nuts with our good friend that I think we know a little bit better now, Tom Orange. Give it up for Tom Orange, everybody. Did a fantastic job. The crowd goes mild. The Madeline Miller fans, not pleased. And I'm going to have to clean up that PR mess for myself. But you know what? I think it was actually worth it. I think it was worth it to sit here and to get to know you a little bit better, Tom. And sincerely, with all the gags, hey, you know what? It was a fake mustache the whole time, guys. I bet you didn't even realize.
Oh, I can't believe it.
Sincerely, though, hey, thanks for giving me your Friday night. I know everyone else really appreciates it as well. I am a huge fan of what you do, and I hope that people will go check out that have saw you here for the first time.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Folks, go subscribe to Tom Orange. Give him all of your views and give him your money. He wants the money. That's what he's here for.
Only the money.
That's right, of course. And folks, thank you for being here. The third member of the chat, as always, you guys are always so wonderful and so giving and bring a lot of really good insight. So we appreciate you very much for keeping the conversation going down in the chat box. And it's great to see all the usual suspects down there. If you like the video, hit like. It helps out tremendously here on the channel for more people to see me and Tom, which we want. And it also is okay. If you hated this video, you can actually dislike it as well. That's totally cool. And if you loved it, I would love for you to subscribe if you haven't been here before and you haven't done so already. I saw someone say I look smaller now, which is very upsetting. Body
Just hit him with the
dysmorphia.
front double real quick, Jimmy. Show him his boss.
Hey, Tom, hit it. Hit it with me. Let's go. Boom! Look at this. I think you got the mass. I think I got the definition. I think if we join forces,
I'm nice and fluffy.
All right, we'll have a pose off next time in a push up contest. All right, that's what we're gonna do. It's gonna be fantastic. And then we'll burn a copy of Cersei. No, I'm just kidding, folks. I'm kidding. Folks, we love you. Until I see you next time, be good, be safe, and remember to always keep turning the page.